had their pictures taken and all that, and even some older kids in their 20s that wanted their pictures taken in it. So I don't mind doing that. That's fun. I get a lot of thumbs up and a lot of horn honks and a lot of stares from people looking at me like, what is that? Where did you get it? And this one guy came up to me one time and said, what year is that Jeep? Hold on a second. I'll give you my card. I want to do a show on it. And that would be you, right? It's an 11-gallon tank, and that gets me approximately 200 miles, which isn't very much. This is a two-handed driver, so I keep both hands on the wheels there. Not because I'm supposed to, but because of the steering, the type of vehicle it is. It needs to be driven. It's noisy, it's stinky, it's bumpy, it's a Jeep, and only Jeep people understand that.
The common tow truck, maybe not as flashy as a fire truck or as unique as a military Jeep, but once you see the work Paul Hammond has put into his tow truck in Bracebridge, I'm sure you'll agree it's going to turn some heads.
Hello, my name is Paul Hammond. We're sitting in my museum in Bracebridge, Ontario. I've lived in Bracebridge all my life, 71 years. And our family has been in the transportation business for over 70 years, buses and trucks. I personally had Muskoka Transport for 47 years. Started with one truck and sold 3 years ago. So now I'm enjoying myself and enjoying my hobby. It all started several years ago. A man by the name of Bill Campbell lived over in Halliburton, and he wanted one of my pickup trucks. And so after a bit of negotiation, a little bit of boot towards me, I traded him a pickup truck for this 1940 International cab and chassis. Well, then I started to look for a tow truck body for it. Every little town had a tow truck, or two or three maybe, different garages, and I wanted one. So I traveled thousands of miles all over Ontario and into the States trying to find a tow truck body. No luck. So I finally decided I was going to have one built. So I found a scale model of the 1940 International D30, took it to a local company, and asked them if they could build it. At first they laughed. I said, no, here's a scale model of this little tow truck I want built. By gosh, you'll see today they did a wonderful job. A young fellow by the name of John Stead, who's sorry, he's passed away. He did a lot of the welding and painting, and I am so proud of it. As I say, I don't think there's another one in Ontario. It's got 1940 license plates, it's got the fog lights, the vintage lights on it, it's got everything that goes with a 1940 truck. And so just to see a 1940 truck of this size, there's not an awful lot of them around. And being a wrecker is very, very unique. It works. I don't know if it's got a favorite feature. What I really like is to put it in a parade or have it a show. And when the people come over and say, my God, that looks nice, you've done a wonderful job. That's what I like best. I was vaccinated with an international needle, so I've had international trucks for over 40 years. I did have some other kinds, but I like internationals, and they made me a lot of money, I'll be honest. So that's why I collect internationals. We lived in Lake Muskoka for years, and we sold our home out there. Someone wanted to buy it, and so we bought 12 acres here, and I built this 3,000 square foot building, and we're going to add another 3,000 square foot on it either this fall or next spring, so I can get all my stuff inside. Gives me a sense of pride to have something that somebody else doesn't have 3 of or 4 of. 35 pickup truck, there's not many of those around. 1940 wrecker, very, very few around. Again, it's the good feeling you get when you show something. if I go to a show, which I do quite regularly, I can back it in line and there's not 2 or 3 sitting beside it. It's one of a kind. You might see the odd one, but very, very odd. And I just love it. I love to show it off. Again, I'm 71 years old. I want to do it till they carry me out that door, I think. I love doing it. And again, it's the satisfaction of the find. It's like a sickness. The only way to get feeling better is buy another one.
The last 3 trucks we will be looking at have been restored to show vehicles. The last 2 have been fully restored to showroom quality, while the last one has a rather unique look to its restoration. Everything new under the hood, but the body has a weathered, rusty look called Resto-modding.
I'm John Grundyke from Sarnia, Ontario. I'm the proud owner of a 1936 Chevrolet pickup truck. The truck has been modified somewhat. The original truck was half-ton Chevy. Mine has been shortened to a quarter-ton, and my original truck was green with black fenders. It's been repainted to a dark blue pearl color, and I've been the proud owner of it for about 7 years now, and we enjoy going to car shows and just cruising on weekends and just having a lot of fun with our friends in the car club. Ever since I was a teenager, I always wanted a little truck from the 30s, a little pointy-nosed pickup truck. And I said to my wife, I'll wait till the kids are grown up that we can start enjoying ourselves with a toy that we don't have to mortgage ourselves for. And lo and behold, I came to a donut shop one morning and there was the truck I've always wanted. And a few months later, it did come up for sale. And between trading a few motors and transmissions and whatnot, we made a deal. And I acquired that truck. The 1936 Chevrolet truck was the first year Chevrolet went to a steel frame. Before that, the frames were made of wood. And that's why you don't see a lot of Chevrolet trucks at car shows anymore. They rotted out, and even the doors, the door frames, 1936, they went to a metal door frame. The 35s and under were wood frames. So see that if they sat out in the field, they would corrode or rot out very quickly. Some of the features of this truck, if you notice the driver's door, there's a little click lock. The key lock is on the passenger side. Back in the day, the laws were kind of outdated, but the idea was when you parked your car, you discharged on the passenger side, on the curb side of the street, so that you didn't spook the horses by opening the door and interrupting the horses. So there's a bit of an outdated law, but they still had it on the books. Another feature with the 1936 Chevrolet, when you wanted to fuel your vehicle, the gas tank was under the passenger seat. You had to flip the seat up, pump your fuel. Smoking at the gas pumps was still allowed back in the day. Maybe that's why you don't see that many 36 Chev trucks on the road either. This truck has been modified. The fuel tank has been brought to the back. It had one light at the back, one tail light, which also was your brake light. There was no signal lights. If you wanted to turn left, you put your arm out the window this way. Right turn was this way. You may have noticed on the front, on the windshield, there's one wiper blade. The second wiper blade was an extra, it was an option. The warranty on this truck was 90 days. or 4,000 miles, whichever came first. It was not transferable. This is a Canadian-built truck. It was built in Oshawa, Ontario. It's truck number 100 on the assembly line, if you study the bin. 206 cubic inch with 26.3 horsepower. This truck has had a different engine put in, a newer engine. It's about 10 times more horsepower than that now.
My friend Mike Burton built that truck, and I was there for some of the build. Originally a 6-cylinder truck, 3 on the tree. Now it's a 396 big block with a 4-speed. I guess from beginning to end, I grew to love that truck, and I told him, anytime you're going to sell that, I want to buy it off you. I learned how to drive on a 66 Chevy pickup that my dad had that he bought from the Department Highways. So I always had the love affair for a 66 Chevy pickup. I was with him when we went and looked at this truck. We saw it in a barn, and it was pretty dusty and dirty, but it was a solid truck. Parts were taken off, cleaned up, either powder coated or painted, and then put back on.
When I started the 66 Russ's truck now, it was no game plan, just a rebuild. At the time, the big blocks were all the rage. Fuel economy wasn't the big deal. Transmission in that was found in a field. We had it rebuilt and put that in, and it's just a good match. It's a good driving truck. It was supposed to have been a more of a rustic truck, but it ended up being like a show quality truck by the time it was done. They call it a Resto-mod now, where everything is new underneath. All the modern conveniences with air conditioning and overdrive transmissions, fuel injection. No more carburetors, no more set the choke to get it to run. Just turn the key and it goes. They give 25, 30 miles to the gallon on the highway now. Where do you find a 70 or a 50-year-old vehicle kicking around anymore and bring it back to life? They're easier to drive. You don't have to, if you get a scratch or a scuff in it or bang it or stone chip, it just adds character to it. It's just like driving a brand new truck, but with the old rustic look. It's just cool.
That's all the trucks we have for you on this episode. Have fun out there on the roads. Thanks for watching.
YourTV.tv is our online home. Find videos, our broadcast schedule, community events, and how you can get involved in your local channel. Visit YourTV.tv. We are truly local.
Child, be strong and carry on. My love will be your anchor.
I feel like I'm a real part of this town.
I'll be your anchor in the
I'm so thankful that you came into my life.
faithful, tried and true.
Family is forever.
Don't miss a new season of When Hope Calls, exclusively on Super Channel.
Watch Your TV on the go. Cogeco customers can now enjoy local programming online. Simply log into your Cogeco account on cogeco.ca. Click on Your TV and start streaming. Your TV is truly local, exclusively on Cogeco.
My name's Josh Bloom.
I'm Colby Barlow.
Hi, I'm David Goyette.
My name's Sam Dickinson.
Hi, I'm Sam Bennett.
Bo Horvat.
I'm Brent Othman. I play on the Don Mills Flyers.
Hi, my name is Porter Martone.
Hi, I'm Hunter Haight.
Michael Dalcool.
I'm Travis Konechny.
Hi, I'm Callum Ritchie.
My name is Beckett Seneca.
Hi, my name is Jacob Chikrin.
Darnell Nurse.
Hey, I'm Danny Shulkin.
My name is Jordan Donovan.
Hi, my name is Henry Muse.
I'm Brent Clark from the Don Mills Flyers.
Hi, my name is Cole Bodwamp.
Jordan Subban.
Hi, I'm Zane Prack.
Jason Dickinson.
Hi, I'm Ben Godger from the North Bay Trappers. I'm a goalie.
Nicholas Ritchie.
Hi, my name is Malcolm Spence.
Hi, I'm Max Domi.
Hi, I'm Ethan Almastro.
I'm Dylan Stone from the Toronto Marlboros.
Hi, I'm Mason McTavish.
Jared McCann.
Hi, I'm Francesco Pinelli.
My name is Aaron Ekblad.
I'm Shane Wright from the Don Mills Flyers. I'm a centerman. I'm from Burlington, Ontario.
Hi, I'm Ty Nelson. I play for the Toronto Junior Canadians.
My name is Quentin Musty.
My name is Michael Misa. I play for the Mississauga Senators.
Hi, my name is Connor McDavid. I play for the Toronto Marlies. I'm centerman, and I'm from Newmarket, Ontario.
It's a big night for the Ontario Hockey League, and we are live at Cogeco headquarters as it's the 2025 OHL Priority Selection presented by Real Canadian Superstore. Hi again, everyone. I'm Terry Doyle. Thank you so much for joining us. We are live across the network, whether you're joining us on YourTV, Rogers TV, Cable 14 in Hamilton, Eastlink, CHL TV, and across the OHL social channels to bring you this 2025 OHL Priority Selection presented by Real Canadian Superstore. Over the next 3 or so hours, we're going to bring you rounds 1 through 3 this evening, and then 4 to 15 comes up on Saturday beginning at 9 a.m. across the network, as it's an exciting time bringing you the newest players coming into the Ontario Hockey League. It's been referred to as graduation day from minor hockey for so many players, a huge time for their families, the coaches, you name it, and we're very excited to see the names that you will see over the next few hours, the OHL teams, their minor hockey clubs, and so much more. We'll bring you those names and those stories over the course of our broadcast. But before we get the 2025 OHL Priority Selection underway, we of course have some rules we need to go through. Let's bring you those now.
Players eligible for selection are those North American players from territorial jurisdiction born between January 1st, 2006 and December 31st, 2009, including those 2009 born players that were carded with a U18 AAA program in the Great North Midget League. The OHL Priority Selection is 15 rounds, with the completed first-round order of selection having been determined through an OHL draft lottery process held on March 26th. Beyond the opening 4 picks, the order of selection is structured in inverse order of the 2024-25 OHL regular season standings. The 2025 OHL Priority Selection will span 2 days, with rounds 1 through 3 held Friday, followed by rounds 4 through 15 on Saturday beginning at 9 a.m. OHL clubs can utilize a maximum of 5 minutes to select a player in the first 3 rounds and will have a span of 3 minutes to make a selection in the remaining 12 rounds. Each team may utilize 2 timeouts, 1 in the first 5 rounds for a maximum of 2 minutes, and 1 timeout in the remaining rounds for a maximum of 1 minute. There will be short breaks following Friday's first and second rounds, and a 15-minute break at the conclusion of Saturday's 9th round. Teams will make their selection by way of the internet through a specially designed interactive draft day screen. The league will then approve each selection before they appear publicly. Teams will participate in a conference call through Friday's opening 3 rounds and will make their selections audibly before selections will be made digitally during rounds 4 through 15 throughout Saturday's draft show. In addition to following broadcast coverage, fans can track each selection as they appear with live results at OntarioHockeyLeague.com. As always, follow along on social media on X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook.
So with that, we are just about set to get the 2025 OHL Priority Selection presented by Real Canadian Superstore underway. Before we do that, we are joined in studio by OHL Commissioner Brian Crawford. And Brian, good to see you. Welcome inside our studio here. And how excited are you to get this 2025 OHL draft underway?
Oh, fantastic. You know, it's obviously really exciting to welcome a new class of players and their families into our league. And, you know, it's been such a fantastic year this year, and we're headed for great places, and excited to see the new picks tonight.
You saw a little bit of the OHL Cup, of course, and those players now waiting to hear their names called. I'm sure it's nice to see those fresh faces and be so excited to join the OHL family. Yeah,
you know, I think that for so many, this is a kind of a moment that they've been thinking about for a long time. It's the next stop in their hockey journey, and you know, we're so proud to be able to welcome new families into the league and just continue to build from strength to strength with this league. And we're headed in such great place towards such great places, and you know, it's just an exciting night for so many folks.
Here we are in the playoffs, and you've gone through you know, every city in the Ontario Hockey League, done a tour, stopped in, not only talking to the people around the teams, but the people around the community. What have you learned that learned even more over this tour over the course of the 9 months you were on the road?
I mean, it's just, you know, so apparent to me, being in all of the communities, how deeply rooted we are in all the communities that we're in, and just how important these franchises are to those folks. And you know, the reality is that, you know, we're representative of what it means to be from all of these communities, what the shared experience of growing up in those communities are, going to a game on Friday night, and you know, that's really special. And you know, I think that's a bit of the superpower of this league, and what makes it as special of a league as it is.
And I know as part of the tour, as we said, not only talking to people with the teams, but mayors and Chamber of Commerce and those type of people. Is that where you really even more saw? I'm sure there were stories by the mayors about going to games, and they were season ticket holders and all those types of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's that exact thing, that you've got mayors, community members, you know, members of council, all those sorts of folks that are just season ticket holders, and they have been for, you know, maybe a couple generations. You know, they grew up going with their parents, now they take their kids, and it's just part of kind of that family history. And so that's what's really neat. You know, these individuals aren't out at the game because, you know, I was visiting or something like that. This is just part of their, you know, their week, and that's really special, and it just shows the connection that we have, and as I said, just how important we are to these communities. And that's ultimately, you know, one of our kind of core missions. It's developing young people, and it is supporting and developing the communities that we're in.
As a lot of the players watching us right now are a little nervous for the draft to get underway. You were drafted as a football player. I'm sure you got a little nervous that day.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's all sorts of emotions that you know, are of course running through your veins during, you know, a draft day. And you know, I think the kind of the best you know, kind of advice that I can provide is, you know, enjoy the process, right? Really, life in hockey, it's all about process, and you got to go through the process, and you got to enjoy it along the way. You know, it's not about the destination as much, and you know, really try to take it all in, and know that it's, you know, just the next step on the journey.
We're going to let you get ready. You're going to be announcing the first round picks, so we'll let you get all set, but appreciate you joining us here in studio.
Absolutely.
And let's enjoy the 2025 OHL Draft.
Looking forward to it.
There's Brian Crawford, OHL Commissioner, joining us here in studio. The first overall choice receives special recognition in the Ontario Hockey League. Let's get more on that.
The Jack Ferguson Award is presented each year to the first overall pick in the OHL Priority Selection, a player chosen not just for talent, but for their potential to shape the future of the game. Named in honor of longtime OHL Central Scouting Director Jack Ferguson, the award has been a first step for many who have gone on to do great things in the hockey world. Among the most legendary names on the list, Eric Lindros was a force of nature with the Oshawa Generals, who went on to a dominant NHL career defined by power, skill, and leadership. Another Generals standout, John Tavares, currently captains the Toronto Maple Leafs. He broke records in the OHL, including 215 career goals, showcasing a goal-scoring touch that set him apart from the start. Steven Stamkos, the 2006 recipient, was electric with the Sarnia Sting and brought that same scoring flair to the NHL, becoming a two-time Stanley Cup champion with the Tampa Bay Lightning. In 2014, the Sarnia Sting selected Jakob Chychrun first overall, a dynamic defenseman whose skating and offensive instincts were on display from day one. Chychrun quickly rose to NHL prominence and continues to be a key presence on the Washington Capitals blue line. No list is complete without Connor McDavid, selected by the Erie Otters in 2012. With unmatched speed and vision, he's become the face of the NHL and continues to amaze night after night with the Edmonton Oilers. Quinton Byfield, chosen first in 2018 by the Sudbury Wolves, brought size, speed, and skill to the OHL. Since then, he's carved out a growing role with the Los Angeles Kings as one of the league's rising young stars. Michael Misa, granted exceptional status in 2022, went first overall to the Saginaw Spirit. He's become a central figure in the team's success, helping power them to a Memorial Cup and continues to impress as a top prospect for this year's NHL draft. In 2023, the Erie Otters used the top pick to select Matthew Schaefer, a gifted two-way blue liner with elite skating ability. He's a top name to watch heading into the 2025 NHL draft. And most recently, Ethan Belchez became the latest Jack Ferguson Award recipient, taken first overall by the Windsor Spitfires in 2024. He made an immediate impact in his rookie season, showing the promise of a future star. Who will join this group in 2025? Let's send it back to Terry Doyle to find out.
Well, thank you very much. And now joining me in studio is OHL Director of Central Scouting, Daryl Woodley. Good to see you. Welcome back. How excited are you to get things underway here?
Yeah, it's been an exciting year. You know, I'm just looking forward to getting this process underway, as I'm sure there's many kids at home that are saying, let's get this thing going, boys.
Absolutely. I'm sure we are very excited to get this 2025 OHL Priority Selection presented by Real Canadian Superstore underway. Commissioner Brian Crawford is getting set to make the first overall choice, and well, there's a little bit of suspense, but I'm sure a lot of people are waiting to hear that. So I believe the Commissioner is all ready to go. So let's turn it over to OHL Commissioner Brian Crawford.
Welcome to the 2025 OHL Priority Selection Draft, presented by Real Canadian Superstore. What an exciting time for so many players and their families, our teams and fans across our great league. It is my pleasure to announce tonight's first round picks. With the first overall pick in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Peterborough Petes select forward Caden McGregor from the Ottawa Valley Titans.
Caden McGregor from the Ottawa Valley Titans, the selection there. 38 goals on the season in 29 games, and now a member of the Peterborough Petes. And with that in mind, let's turn it over to Mark McKelvey.
Thank you very much, Terry. And yes, joining me is the first overall pick in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection. I maybe threw in a few extra numbers there. 2025 Priority Selection, first overall, Caden McGregor. Caden, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, well, we talk about this as we were sitting down, and you're taking a moment just to take it all in. You're here with your parents. How special does it feel to hear your name announced by the Commissioner as the first overall pick?
Yeah, I'm speechless. This has been a dream of mine ever since I was a little kid. To hear it finally get called, it's a surreal moment for me and my family.
Traveling here today with your parents, you mentioned you came with your parents, you have 3 other siblings. This moment has to be huge for your family. What was that conversation like in the car ride?
Yeah, my parents obviously have been the biggest supporters for me growing up. The amount of hours they spent waiting in rinks, driving me in the car, I just want to thank them, and then my siblings as well. My brother pushing me from an early age, and just my sisters always being there for me whenever I needed them. So.
You had an incredible season, and it's capped off by being selected first overall by the Peterborough Petes. We'll talk about Peterborough in just a second, but at what point during the course of this season, or was it at all on your radar, #1 overall? Was that something you were gunning for?
I had it. Obviously, I kind of tried to block out that noise. For me, this year was just about kind of having fun with my friends and doing anything I could to win. That was the biggest thing for our team this year.
Well, we talked about your team before we came on camera and what a big weekend it is. Expecting a lot of players from that Ottawa Valley squad to be selected. How's the group feeling?
Yeah, well, I think everyone's pretty excited. I just want to wish everyone good luck in the rest of the draft, and I hope all goes well.
Well, you're wearing that jersey, the Peterborough Petes, a historic franchise in the OHL. What can Petes fans expect from Caden McGregor?
They can expect a tenacious forward, someone who plays both ends of the game. I prioritize compete level. Every shift I go out there, I compete as hard as I can. I have high IQ, and I like to use my size and speed to set up plays in the offensive zone and make my teammates around me better.
Well, Caden, we saw that video package a moment ago talking about the players that have been selected first overall, and they've received the Jack Ferguson Award. You see that list, you see the company that you're joining. What goes through your mind?
Yeah, no, it's definitely crazy, but in this 2009 age group, there are so many guys that could have went first overall, and I'm humbled and honored to accept that, and I just want to thank the Peterborough Petes for putting their faith in me.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that because it's a great group of players. You're selected first overall. You'll be in Peterborough tomorrow. Congratulations and welcome to the OHL.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Caden McGregor, the first overall pick in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection. Round #1 continues when we come back.
Parking your moving truck is hard. Moving your internet? That's easy. With Cogeco's super reliable, super fast, fiber-powered internet.
My time in the OHL allowed me to prepare for life as a professional hockey player at a young age. The development opportunity players are provided by playing in the OHL is unrivaled. Support systems teams have in place help players immensely once they get to the next level. With the coaching, skill development, facilities, and attention the OHL provides, I believe it is the best hockey development league in the world.
Lunch or dinner is served at Tim's. It's meaty, cheesy, and quenchy?
Now that's a meal.
Exactly. Make a meal of it. Order the new Hat Trick Flatbread Pizza and Garlic Bread on the Tim's app.
Time for Tim's. Across the nation, the Canadian Hockey League is known for investing in moments like this. But did you know we're also investing in this? Through the CHL Scholarship Program, clubs award nearly $10 million each year. The CHL, developing tomorrow's leaders.
Watch YourTV on the go. Cogeco customers can now enjoy local programming online. Simply log into your Cogeco account on cogeco.ca. Click on YourTV and start streaming. YourTV is truly local, exclusively on Cogeco.
Welcome back to the 2025 OHL Priority Selection presented by Real Canadian Superstore, as we are getting set now for the second overall choice to be made here, as Daryl Woodley joins me in studio, and Commissioner Brian Crawford is standing by to make the announcement as the Guelph Storm are on the clock, but we're just waiting for the commissioner. So wanted to ask you, Daryl, very quickly, Cade McGregor.
Peterborough Pete's fans are going to love him. You know, he explained himself to a T of what kind of hockey player he is. You know, he's got great hockey IQ, he's got great skill, but the compete and the work ethic on both sides of the puck is what makes him, you know, that much different than some of the other players. You know, he's a kid that you're going to win with because he does take care of both ends. You know, he's got a high IQ and he understands the little things he has to do to win. And the other things that really impressed me were, as I watched him this year, is how well he sees the ice. He sees the ice. He's a better playmaker than I thought at the beginning of the year, especially in the OHL Cup. He made some passes that were like, wow, I'm sitting up in the stands and I didn't even see that play happen, and he's on the ice and made it happen. So he's definitely a gifted player.
Congratulations to Cade, and of course Peterborough Pete's fans are going to be very excited. I mentioned the Guelph Storm are on the clock and now all set to announce the selection is Commissioner Brian Crawford.
With the second overall pick in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Guelph Storm select forward Yako Wycisk from the Sun County Panthers.
Yako Wycisk, the choice there out of Sun County, and Daryl, a player that Guelph Storm fans are going to be excited to see in the lineup.
Yeah, a big body, you know, a big centerman that can beat you in a number of ways. You know, he's got the reach and the skill, but he's also got the playmaking ability. And he's one of those players, you watch him and the game seems to come easy for him. You know, he makes effortless plays, sorry. And it really seems, you know, like he's not really having to work hard out there yet. You know he is, but like look at him just walk there through the defenseman, and he makes the game seem so easy. He's such a big kid, and he's got soft hands and, you know, great understanding for the game. And, you know, that Sun County team was a fun team to watch this year. They had a lot of skill. They were they played a very open game and, you know, generated a lot of offense. And he was obviously the catalyst in driving their offense.
For those not familiar, Sun County is Windsor and the surrounding area around Windsor. And Daryl, showing the maturity or how he's ready to move up. He's already playing Junior B hockey, playing for provincial Junior A hockey for Leamington in the playoffs, deep in the playoffs here. They're playing tonight against Milton. Leamington and Milton, he's seeing regular minutes. To be able to jump right out of playing U16 into that league right away to get ready to jump to the OHL next year, I'm sure it's impressive.
It's very impressive, and he's not just playing regular minutes. I hear he's playing power play and penalty. Like that's the reason why he's there playing and probably not at a draft party with the rest of his buddies. But that's what you want. You want these kids to keep developing and keep playing, and in the big chances and the big moments like they're getting. And what a bigger stage for him to continue after his minor hockey and now go play some provincial junior and keep developing and, you know, continue developing his game.
Yeah, so certainly a very important time for his family. Congratulations to Yako Wycisk, the choice there, and still playing hockey, playing for Leamington. So we have 2 picks in. Up next, the Ottawa 67s are on the clock. We'll get the announcement of their selection in just a moment. And with that, let's go to Commissioner Crawford.
With the 3rd overall pick in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Ottawa 67s select forward Brock Chitteroni from the Barrie Junior Colts.
Brock Chitteroni going from the Barrie Junior Colts to now the Ottawa 67s. And Daryl, a player who's been well-traveled, spent some time in Northern Ontario, but playing for Barrie, and going to be very excited, I'm sure, to go to Ottawa.
Yeah, this is a kid that I've seen a lot of, living just north of Barrie. I see a lot of the Barrie Colts team, but he also played up as an underage last year in Barrie. So I've seen him now for 2 solid years. He's continued his progression throughout the year. He wears 51. I don't know if that's because he's a big fan of Shane Wright or not, but there's a lot of similarities in their games. Both of them are great skaters, got great skill, very smart hockey players. This is one kid that does things quick. You watch him, he's got the quick twitch muscles, he's got great vision, and I don't know if there's a better skater in the draft than him, because the way he uses his edges and the way he can generate power off his stride is pretty impressive.
How impressive it too, the fact that obviously, as you said, played a year up last year, and then to play once again that U16, and of course when you're going to that second year, I'm sure you want to see you're really dominating or really a factor there on the ice.
Yeah, and you do get from time to time the kid that plays up in U16 as an underage, and it takes them a while to adjust or get used to playing up at 16 again. I think that may be because they think it's going to be easy. I played there once already. I can do it again next year, no problem. But with Brock, he came in right away, and right from the get-go, he's a hard-working kid, so his feet are always moving. So he was always generating and moving his feet and generating offense for his team. So he picked up right off the bat at the beginning of the year when we saw him play.
So the choice there, Brock Chitteroni, goes to the Ottawa 67s with the 3rd overall choice. The Sarnia Sting are on the clock. They'll be picking 4th overall in this 2025 OHL Priority Selection presented by Real Canadian Superstore. Thanks for joining us here on this Friday night. We'll take you through the opening 3 rounds this evening and rounds 4 through 12 coming up beginning Saturday morning at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. And a very exciting time around the Ontario Hockey League. Exciting time for the players. We heard from Caden McGregor a few moments ago, and the smile on his face was certainly all lit up the room when he came in, as he was certainly excited to have that Peterborough Pete's jersey and go to Peterborough. And then of course we've seen choices by Guelph and Ottawa, and up next the Commissioner has the choice for the Sarnia Sting.
With the 4th overall pick in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Sarnia Sting select forward Brener Lammens from the Toronto Red Wings.
Brener Lammens out of the Toronto Red Wings, a player not afraid to use his size, get involved, mix it up, and a player I would think Sarnia Sting fans are going to be pretty excited to have as a fan favorite over the next few years.
They are. This kid, Brener, plays the game the right way. No shortcuts taken all on the ice. He sometimes would almost rather go through you than around you. He's one of those kind of players. And, big part of his team, they lost in the finals of the Silver Stick. They upset the Junior Canadians in the first round of the playoffs in the GTHL. And he's a driving force for them. He's always moving his feet, getting in on the forecheck. And one thing that he's got really good skill too. It kind of goes underrated a little bit because of how hard he plays the game and because of how hard he works. But he's got good hands and a good touch around the net, and he's able to make those plays coming off the rush as well.
Is he a guy that his style of play, if he wasn't, the no number on his back, no name, it would just stand out? The style he plays, as you said, going through guys.
Yeah, exactly. He was a player that, my kind of hockey player. I love these old school guys that don't necessarily try and do the cute toe drag at the blue line all the time, and things some guys do nowadays. And that's kind of watching YouTube videos. You get a lot of this high skill stuff that they do. But with Brener, he plays the game. I'd say like an old school way. He's not afraid to go to the dirty areas, and as you know, that's where a lot of guys make a living, especially in our league and then moving forward in the NHL. If you're willing to go to those dirty areas, get rewarded.
And the captain of that Red Wings team as well. And we'll talk about this throughout the night, but I'm sure when we see these players that have been recognized to be the captain of their team, there's obviously a reason for that.
Yeah, exactly. And he missed a little bit of time this year with some injury, and you noticed, you recognized when he wasn't on the ice. His team felt it a little bit. They had a good team as well, but when he wasn't there, it's almost like he led the way both on the ice and off the ice for that team. So yeah, definitely a good player.
The Owen Sound Attack are on the clock, getting set to make the next choice. OHL Commissioner Brian Crawford is standing by and ready to make the announcement.
With the 5th overall pick in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Owen Sound Attack select forward Max DeLille from the Toronto Titans.
Max DeLille out of the Toronto Titans, the choice here, and Daryl, and certainly a familiar name, the DeLille last name, joining Tristan in Owen Sound in a case where now I'm looking to make a mark of his own in the OHL.
Yeah, and he's definitely got the game to make his own. He's a skilled guy that was the leader for that Toronto Titans team. They were a really good team this year. Lost in the semifinals of the OHL Cup, but he was definitely the driving force. And another kid, similar to Brener, that as you see with that hit, not afraid to take the body all over the ice. Another one of my favorite players, just because of how hard he plays the game. Shift in, shift out. If he's not scoring goals, he's getting in on the forecheck. He's doing all the other little things that coaches at our level and obviously the minor hockey level love to see. He was used in every situation by his coach. Just one of those players that are fun to watch. And he's got the skill too, and he's got a great shot. I saw him score a lot of goals off the rush with that great snapshot that he has.
And so certainly a very exciting time for Owen Sound Attack fans to be able to have that. As you've gone through and with your team looking at these players, I'm sure you're looking at them and just how they've progressed throughout the year as well. From September and October into March, for example.
Yeah, that's why we start. That's why we start the process in September, and even I'll go further than that. I've got a U15 scout as well that gets out the year before and starts to get a book on these guys, because you want to see those kids that are continually progressing. Whether it's through their 15-year into the 16-year-old year, and then throughout the 16-year-old year, you want to see kids that are going the right way on the curve and that are continuously getting better and improving, and improving their game and improving their stock in the draft.
We're up to, we've had 5 picks in, now we're up to number 6 as the North Bay Battalion are on the clock, and let's go to Commissioner Brian Crawford.
With the 6th overall pick in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the North Bay Battalion select forward Cameron Warren from the Toronto Junior Canadians.
Cameron Warren of the Toronto Junior Canadians, and you see that almost 2 points a game, doing my math there, and a player that certainly stood out at the OHL Cup tournament.
Yeah, he was, he was a tournament MVP for a reason. Every time I saw him play in that week, he was dominant. He scored the overtime winner against Ottawa Valley, I believe. He scored the overtime winner against Sun County in the round robin. So here's the Sun County goal right there. And he's just a dynamic player. You talk to him and you talk to people around him. He's always moving his feet. He's 5'9". He's a good size, but he's hard to knock off the puck because he's got that good low center of gravity, and also to go along with the skill. He's one of the most skilled players in the draft. Another kid that played U16 last year with North York, and made the progression and the step this year, and has been one of the go-to guys, one of the top guys in the draft all year.
And someone, I'm sure, as we you go through and look at it from that standpoint, where it's one thing to show up in November. It's one thing to show up in December, but to show up at the OHL Cup tournament, all eyes are on you, or so many eyes are on you. It's the championship tournament for your age group, and I'm sure to be able to excel at that level, it's like, to excel now when the lights are on in the OHL is going to be a big factor.
Yeah, and that's what that's what us as scouts we're looking for. We're looking for teams and players that win these championships, because at the end of the day, that's what all 20 OHL teams are trying to do. They're trying to win the OHL championship and move on to the Memorial Cup. So yeah, he came in, and I'm sure his whole team came in with the mindset of, well, we got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs, so we got a little chip, or we got something to prove here. Get in as a wild card and end up running the table. So yeah, good on him and the rest of those junior Canadian players as well.
So congratulations to Cameron Warren, chosen there by the North Bay Battalion. Battalion with pick number 6 in this 2025 OHL Priority Selection presented by Real Canadian Superstore. Thanks for joining us across the network this evening, whether you're watching us on YourTV, Rogers TV, Eastlink, Cable 14, you name it, across CHL TV, the OHL social channels as well, bringing you this special night here. It's an annual event and certainly a very special event here in the Ontario Hockey League. And now we're getting set for the next choice, and we go to Commissioner Brian Crawford.
With the 7th overall pick in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Sioux Greyhounds select forward Noah Louse from the Toronto Junior Canadiens.
Toronto Junior Canadiens right back again, Daryl, and this time it's a player you see 25 goals in 33 league games, and now Noah Louse, chosen there by the Sioux Greyhounds.
Yeah, and you know, we talk about players stepping their game up at the right time of the year. I want to say he almost led the tournament in scoring at the OHL Cup in goals anyway. But a kid that elevated his play in the OHL Cup. You know, he's a big kid, plays the game the right way. You know, and just was, you know, him and Cameron Warren there and Roberts were probably one of the best lines in minor hockey. When they were on the ice, they were creating every time, and I think the opposition just tried to hold them at bay as best they could. But you know, he's a player that goes, you know, he scores a lot of his goals from there. You know, he goes to that dirty area where Cameron Warren would give him the puck, and he generated a lot there from inside the slot area.
Yeah, as we've seen there, and so many players. When you watch this, and you've seen this over the years, you've been around Central Scouting, you've been around working with Barry before. I'm sure it's nice to see the players, as I said, they make that progression. But then, what are you looking for now over the next few months, and how they make that jump? I'm sure into training camp and things like that.
Yeah, so you know, these boys aren't finished products by any means. I'm sure you'll ask every one of them. They've got things to work on this summer. A lot of them will be just getting stronger. You know, getting stronger because you're going from playing against 15 and 16-year-olds to 16, 17, 18, and 19 and 20-year-olds next year. So it's a big step. And you know, these years too, the U15, U16 years, I always find are some of the biggest developmental years for these kids. You can get a kid that might grow 2-3 inches this summer and put on 10 pounds. That makes a big difference when you make that step up into our league next year. It's
certainly very interesting to see the progression of the players, and even coming into the Ontario Hockey League as 16-year-olds, and then grow up, and next thing you know, they're 19, 20-year-olds, and see the maturity factor. And it's certainly very interesting to see. And the big thing right now tonight is congratulations to the minor hockey coaches, the families that have helped these players and their journey through minor hockey and working their way to being chosen in the Ontario Hockey League. And we'll talk about this tonight, we'll talk about this tomorrow as well, that whether you're chosen in the first round, 15th round, anywhere in between, or maybe your name isn't called tonight, there's still lots happening in their hockey journey. The Flint Firebirds have the 8th overall choice, and let's go to Commissioner Brian Crawford.
With the 8th overall pick in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Flint Firebirds select forward Charlie Murata from the Don Mills Flyers.
The Don Mills Flyers checking in here, and once again, we've got ourselves forward Charlie Murata, the choice here, listed as a left winger, and a guy that the Flint Firebirds, I'm sure their fans are looking to see go up and down the wing.
He listed as a left winger, but plays a lot of left wing and center.
Fair enough.
Know, this is a kid that, you know, you watch this kid go through the neutral zone, and you know, when you see the jersey flowing in the background, in behind him, you know he's got great speed. You know, he's probably one of the smoothest skaters in the draft. You know, he plays with his head up. He's one of those guys that makes his line mates better. You know, he was more of a disher, more of a playmaker than a scorer. He did score this year, obviously, as well, but it was fun to watch him come off the rush and hit guys, you know, in full stride, or whether he turns back and makes nice plays. But just a pure, gifted, skilled player that has a lot to bring to our league.
And did you find with some of these players, well, as much as they may be listed as a winger, listed as a center, looking to see can they play, you know, all over the ice? And when I say all over, of course, very structured, yeah, but at the same time, be willing to play wherever necessary and do whatever's necessary.
Yeah, because, you know, moving forward, you know, there's only, you know, a lot of the best players in minor hockey play center. That's the way it is. You know, you put your best kid at center ice, but moving forward, there's only 4 spots on a team next year that are centermen, and a lot of those guys are 18, 19-year-olds, and so some of these younger guys are going to have to learn to play the wing. And that being said, some guys will move to the wing, and coaches will find out, well, this kid makes a better winger actually than he does the centerman. Sometimes it's a blessing in disguise. But yeah, definitely look for that when we're evaluating these players to see how versatile these kids are. You know, can they play their off wing? Can they play the middle? You know, because be able to play your off wing does take a lot of skill. Not a lot of kids can do that.
And do you find indeed that sort of jumps out to you when you're at some of those games, seeing, you know, that left shot playing the right wing or vice versa, that you kind of make a little extra note or check a little extra box on that?
Oh yeah, for sure. And then, you know, some of these forwards that play the point in the power play, that's another thing that you look for. You got to have the composure back there, because I know as a forward when I played and I ever got put back on the fence, I panicked because I'm the last line of defense. But these kids nowadays are so cool, calm, and collective with the skill set they have that they make those plays look easy at times.
And certainly, and that's the thing we see coming out of minor hockey. I always say sometimes the OHL is like an all-star team of minor hockey, the best players coming from minor hockey, and being able to be flexible. You know, you were that power play, penalty kill guy, you maybe were everything, or maybe you were the #1 offensive guy in your team, but coming into the O, you might be asked to do more penalty killing. You might be in a shutdown role, play a physical role, and I'm sure if you can show that early on in your game and learn those skills, and showing you're also willing to learn, I'm sure that goes a long way.
Yeah, to gain, you know, to make that next step to gain the coach's confidence is a big thing. As a kid coming in, you got to prove to your coach that, yeah, I'm willing to kill penalties, I'm willing to block shots, I'm willing to do whatever it takes really to get in the lineup and play on a consistent basis. Because, you know, like you say, these kids are coming from their minor hockey team where they're the star. Now they're going to have to probably take a less of a role in their first year. It's just the way the progression goes. And how mentally strong are you to be able to do that? To go from playing every opportunity to, you know, playing 4 or 5 shifts a period compared to what you're used to playing.
We're up to the #9 pick in the OHL Priority Selection. Commissioner Crawford has the choice of the Kingston Frontenacs.
With the 9th overall pick in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Kingston Frontenacs select forward Alex Kuleman from the Don Mills Flyers.
Once again, Don Mills we're hearing from, and this time Alex Kuleman is the selection here of the Kingston Frontenacs.
Yeah, a big, you know, at 6'2", 171 pounds, he's a big boy and very hard to contain. But not just due to his size did he get picked here. He's got the hockey talent, hockey skills, the hockey bloodlines. He comes from a good hockey family as well. But you know, he's a kid that did all the little things right. This Don Mills team was very well coached. They were very, I don't want to say, well, yeah, I say structured, but they did all the little things. You know, whether it's chipping pucks in, chipping pucks out, taking care of the puck in the right situation. And he was one of those guys that was definitely a leader by example. We're going to hear a lot of Don Mills guys be called over the next day and a half here, but he was definitely one of the go-to guys for that hockey team.
If the name Kuleman sounds familiar, indeed, Nikolai Kuleman, his father, played 10 seasons in the National Hockey League, almost upwards towards 700 games in the OHL. And you talk about the bloodlines, and sometimes it's how they learn to be, and it's too young to say this, but they learn how to be a pro. They learn how to be a hockey player, of how to approach leading into the game, and how to carry yourself even around the rink and around your teammates.
Yeah, all that stuff, you know, preparation for events, preparation for game, knowing how to handle, you know, controversy. You know, there's going to be, or things when things aren't going well. You know, you've got dad to lean on that has been there, done that. You know, not everything, you know, even though he played in the NHL, I'm sure not everything was smooth for him all the way through his career, where he can help his son adjust any changes or any difficulties that he has throughout his career.
Played for the New York Islanders, played for the Toronto Maple Leafs as well. And now we're moving on. We've got the next choice coming in here, and let's go to OHL Commissioner Brian Crawford.
With the 10th overall pick in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Niagara Ice Dogs select forward Ryerson Edgar from the York Simcoe Express.
First time tonight we hear from the York Simcoe Express, Ryerson Edgar, the choice here. A centerman, you see 33 goals in 32 games on the season, some assists as well, and a player that I'm sure the Niagara Ice Dogs and their fans excited to have in the lineup.
Yeah, Ryerson's got skill. He's got skill and he's smooth. And a lot of these kids nowadays play the game and they make it look easy. You know, he was a leader on his team on the ice with what he did, but obviously wears the captain as well. So he does a lot of good things for his team. But you know, he's got that change of gears that he just showed there. He was able to walk around defensemen at the times when they look like they're standing still. He was just, everything he did was effortless. These kids spend so much time nowadays on their skating and on their skill development that the game comes to them very easy and looks very easy to them at times. But you know, he's one player that definitely he went So the York Simcoe Express went. He was the one leading the way for sure.
And I'm sure you said sometimes it looks like things come easy, but you realize that's not easy to do.
No, some of the things that they pull off, I know if I would have tried those when I was 17 or 18 years old, I would have fumbled my way through it and not had a chance to make those plays. But yeah, that's they definitely work hard at their craft. These kids put in a lot of time nowadays at the skill development, at the skating, at edge work, all this stuff that they realize is going to make them better hockey players. And then full marks to all these kids. They definitely put in the hard work.
What are the odds if you tried those moves, you'd be on your backside?
Probably a real good chance, probably 100%, that I would definitely be on my backside if I tried doing some of the things that he did with the puck this year.
The Sudbury Wolves have the 11th overall choice. Here is Commissioner Brian Crawford.
With the 11th overall pick in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Sudbury Wolves select forward Braden Bennett from the Toronto Titans.
Braden Bennett from the Toronto Titans, the choice here. Another centerman listed there. You see his numbers on the season, a few fewer games than some of the other guys got into this season. But now we're seeing Braden Bennett chosen by the Sudbury Wolves.
Yeah, Braden had a great start to the season. I felt bad for Braden. You don't think he played another game after mid-January. It might have been even earlier than that. He had an injury that kept him out of the lineup. And I'm sure as this kid's a competitor and a gamer and plays the game hard and heavy and does a lot of good things. And his team definitely missed him in the second half of the season. But you know, he's one of those players that has the skill. And you know, when the playoff time gets going, they really could have used him because he does everything the right way. He goes hard. He'll take the body. You know, he competes and he works. So yeah, it was a tough break for him in the second half of the season, but obviously Sudbury saw enough in him during the course of the beginning of the year that they really liked what they saw, and they ended up selecting him 11th overall.
How key is it where it's obviously, you know, you would like to see a player, you want him to stay healthy, but knowing, hey, that hard work they've put in, where a player, they're probably disappointed, they're frustrated, but knowing, hey, that hard work you put in, it's still going to pay off.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, it was obviously recognized. You know, a lot of teams would have loved to see him in the second half to get a better read off him and everything else. But man, he did enough at the beginning of the year to definitely cement his spot in the draft. And you know, he was one of those kids that I love. I keep saying that I love the kids that play the game hard and kind of an old school type of player, and that's what Braden definitely was.
The Erie Otters have choice number 12 at the 2025 OHL Priority Selection. Here is OHL Commissioner Brian Crawford.
With the 12th overall pick in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Erie Otters select forward Jake Murray from the Huron-Perth Lakers.
First time we're hearing from Huron-Perth this evening. There is Jake Murray. Over the course of the season, his 28 games, 14 goals, 25 assists for a 6'2", 176-pound forward that Daryl, as we see, as 15 and 16-year-olds, you're 6'2", 176. There's still even room to grow.
Yeah, so just imagine what he's going to be at 18 years old. You know, he's got the skill, he's got the skating and the size now. But as he fills out and moving forward, he's going to be a handful. You know, he was a big part of that Huron-Perth team that ended up winning the Silver Stick. Had a real good run at the OHL Cup as well, and he was one of their go-to guys. They were a fun team to watch. They were very well coached, and they played. You know, Huron-Perth is out by Stratford, so probably had a lot of guys that were from small towns and farm type areas, and they were a team that definitely put their work boots on and their work hat on every game they played, and they showed up and competed and battled. And you know, it was probably not a lot of people would have thought that they would have won the Silver Stick at the beginning of the year, but when they did, and actually after you followed them a little more and you realize, well, they did so well because how hard they played the game, and they were real bought into the program.
We just saw that video a moment ago, and that was against the Junior Canadians. In that, so obviously having success, I'm sure it's interesting to see at tournaments when you have that crossover, Huron-Perth against Junior Canadians, and how the players, really step up their game, for example, in some of those big matchups.
Yeah, it is interesting. That's why we love going to tournaments, because you get to see, the top GTHL team against the top Alliance team, or you get to see, the MOHA team against an Ottawa team. It's good because during league play, you get used to watching them play all the time against the same team. So when you get to see them play another strong team against another strong team, those are always matchups that, when the two top teams in the province were playing from different leagues, those were always games that were, the stands were filled with scouts, that's for sure.
We are at choice number 13 in this OHL Priority Selection. The Saginaw Spirit are on the clock. Here's the Commissioner.
With the 13th overall pick in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Saginaw Spirits select forward Ryan Hanrahan from the Mississauga Reps.
The Saginaw Spirit choosing Ryan Hanrahan here, as you see, coming out of Vaughan and representing the Mississauga Reps this past season. And Daryl, what can you tell us about Ryan?
Ryan's a skilled player that every time he's on the ice, you notice him. He's always moving his feet. He's always generating, putting pressure on the opposition. Struggled a little bit, as you see, with injuries this year. He had a couple. He didn't play a lot of games. I think it was only 23 on the schedule, on the stats there. But a kid that a lot of teams really liked, and because of the way he played the game, he was a driving force on that Reps team. So yeah, he was one of those players that you knew. Same thing, he competed, he worked, he moved his feet all the time, and I think teams are real intrigued with him because he's 5'11", but he's only 133 pounds. So imagine where this kid's going to go when he starts to get a little stronger, when he starts to fill out. And he's one of the players that I really liked as well, and because I think his ceiling is so high.
And that's the thing, we're dealing with 15-year-olds into 16-year-olds, and they grow. There's some that have the growth spurt at 12, it seems like, and some have the growth spurt at 16 and 17. And sure, that's the unpredictability factor in these players, knowing that they're still such young players.
Well, that's it exactly. He's 135, maybe 140 pounds now, and probably doing everything in his power to put on weight. But when you get to be 45, you're doing everything in your power to take off weight. And I was in the same situation he was when I was 15, 16. I couldn't put it on, no matter how hard I worked out or how much you try to eat and try and build. Some kids just do it later in life. So I think with Ryan, it's going to happen. It's going to come. But he's got the game. He's got the skill. He's got the compete. He's got the hockey sense. He's got a lot of things going for him. So yeah, it's a good pick there by Dave Drinkle and his staff.
And when you talk about guys who compete, and I'm sure you're looking late in those games as well, and down by one, and that guy doing everything to tie the hockey game up.
Yeah, and he was on the ice. He played a lot for that Reps team, so he was on the ice whether they're up a goal, down a goal. He was trying to protect leads. He was trying to get that tying goal or that winning goal. So definitely a player that the Reps team relied on, and he was a real good player for them this year.
We're up to the 14th choice. The Brampton Steelheads are on the clock with that one. Brampton will have back-to-back choices here in this opening round of the OHL Priority Selection, their own, plus a league-issued compensatory pick as well. So we will hear from the Brampton Steelheads for the 14th and 15th choices. You see the graphics there. That's why you're seeing the fact that the Steelheads are on the clock now and are also the next one. So for the first choice of the back-to-back for the Steelheads, here is Commissioner Brian Crawford.
With the 14th overall pick in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Brampton Steelheads select defenseman Peter Green from the Don Mills Flyers.
Back to Don Mills, and Daryl, I believe the first time we have a blue liner chosen here, as Peter Green is the choice.
Yeah, this is definitely the first defenseman, and great selection here. He was an offensive-minded defenseman. Excuse me. That doesn't panic with the puck. You love to see those defensemen that when they get the puck, there's no panic point in their game. He sees the ice so well, moves it up the ice well. So his team missed him. He didn't play. I think he played one game in the OHL Cup. He didn't play into the quarterfinals and the semifinals and the final. So I think, possibly a different story if he plays in that final. And, not saying that they would have won, but he definitely would have had an impact on that game because he ran their power play all year. He was their guy that was on the ice all the time when they needed offense and when they needed defense as well. So he's definitely an intriguing prospect for the Brampton Steelhead.
Absolutely. It just seems like a guy just looking there, just sees the ice well and can really quarterback that power play, make that first pass out of his own zone, and be able to, those guys obviously get involved in the offense, but make his teammates better as well.
Yeah, a right shot defenseman as well. We all know how teams covet right shot defensemen, but yeah, he had the ability to pick the right spots to join. He wasn't one of those guys that was always up the ice. He understood the game. He said, I make the pass, I get it up to my forwards, and I follow behind, and I'll pick up some of the secondary stuff maybe. But his decision making on the offensive blue line when it came to power play, whether it was make the shot, make the pass, his decision making was real good as well. So he's going to be a player there in Brampton that's going to be able to run that power play next year, maybe, if not as a 17-year-old for sure.
And certainly very exciting for Brampton Steelheads fans for that. The Steelheads are on the clock as well with the 15th overall choice, so we'll hear from them in a moment as well. You're watching the 2025 OHL Priority Selection presented by Real Canadian Superstore. Thanks for joining us across the network. I'm Terry Doyle alongside Daryl Woodley in our Cogeco headquarters here, bringing you the exciting times. And we say it's like graduation day for minor hockey into the OHL for so many of these players, and great times for them, their families, coaches, teammates, you name it. We'll see videos surfacing over the next 24 to 48 hours of players hearing their names called and their teammates celebrating with them. We saw last year it was the London Knights players were celebrating because I think the billet was chosen and they were all cheering him on. So, you know, it's always great to see and everyone supporting each other. And I know over the years talking to players, you know, a player chosen in the opening round, maybe, you know, one of the top 4 picks, for example, he's just as excited to see his teammates. And it's like, okay, doing an interview, joining us here on the show, for example, then it's like, now I can go back to supporting my teammates. And that's what you love to see, and just how they bring everything together. And that's what's happening here as this 2025 OHL Priority Selection continues here right across the network on this Friday evening. Thanks for making this a part of your Friday evening. Of course, for a lot of people, it's been circled on the calendar for an extended period of time. The Brampton Steelheads are on the clock. They will make the next choice in a moment. They do have back-to-back choices here in this opening round. As I said, their own plus a league-issued compensatory pick. So that's why they have the 2 choices. We have 3 of those compensatory picks over the course of this opening round. So we'll be bringing those as they come in over the course of time. As you notice, we continued right along, and the Brampton Steelheads are on the clock with the 15th pick. And here is Commissioner Brian Crawford.
With the 15th overall pick in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Brampton Steelheads select forward Keaton Ardaugh from the Toronto Junior Canadiens.
Keaton Ardaugh, the choice here out of the Toronto Junior Canadiens, and coming out of Hampton, Ontario, you see 24 goals, 21 assists on the season in his 28 games played, and now Daryl, another choice here by the Steelheads.
Yeah, another one of those junior Canadian forwards that was the driving force for their team. You know, they were deep up front, and you know they were hard to shut down. And that, you know, you look at the OHL Cup, and it's one of the reasons why they won, because they had the depth up front. You could shut down, you know, Warren on one night, but then you had Ardaugh coming behind. You know, they were deep, and they played the game the right way. And this guy has got elite level skill. You know, he might be one of the best goal scorers in the draft. And you know, when he gets that puck on his stick in the slot area, in the scoring area, not many times did he miss.
When you watch teams like that and you talk about the depth, last time I checked, they only play with 1 puck. And some teams, you know, some players would probably love to be that guy always. But, you know, on a deeper team, maybe you're not getting the puck as often as you'd like because of the depth. And I'm sure that's the key to watch guys work with each other, not be selfish, for lack of a better term, and be willing to, maybe you're seeing second power play a couple of times because you've got 3 other guys in front of you tonight, but maybe tomorrow you're getting that first power play. I've got to think it's nice to see those guys willing to play whatever role necessary.
Yeah, and a lot of people and probably a lot of kids don't realize that we watch that stuff. So we're watching body language. If a kid's not getting out there on the first power play, you're watching the body language. We're always watching these kids and evaluating, because, like I said earlier, these kids are going to go and represent your organization in your city. So you know, you know, with him, would he play some first power play unit time? Yes, definitely. But they had so many options that they could throw out there that you know, he was a player that was just fun to watch, and you know, didn't matter when he was on the ice, you definitely took notice of him.
Congratulations to Keaton Ardaugh, the choice there of the Brampton Steelheads. At number 15, the Oshawa Generals are on the clock with the 16th overall choice. Let's go to the Commissioner.
With the 16th overall pick in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Oshawa Generals select forward Sam Roberts from the Toronto Junior Canadiens.
Junior Canadians right back at it again. Sam Roberts, the choice here. Another forward, and the Roberts last name is familiar as well.
Yeah, a lot of people in the Toronto area might remember his dad played for the Leafs years ago. But yeah, you know, Sam's a right-handed version similar to his dad. His dad played hard, played the right way. Sam's no different. Sam's got a great hockey IQ. You know, he plays a heavy game. He plays a good playoff style game. You know, there's one, you know, we go back, this is the 4th junior Canadian forward taken in the first, what are we at, 16 picks. They were deep, and he was one of those guys that the bigger the game, the better he played. And that's always something that, us as scouts, we look for. You want those kids that, if it's a championship game, you want them really elevating, not, compared to, a Monday night GTHL game, against one of those teams. You'd like to see it when they really elevate their game in championships.
And that's the thing. Now, I'm sure Oshawa Generals fans, it's one thing you think, okay, it's Gary Roberts' son, but it's saying, let Sam carve his own niche, and I'm sure it won't take very long for him to do that.
Yeah, exactly, and he does carve his own niche. He is his own player. Oshawa, I'm sure, is going to know that he's going to come in good shape because his dad runs all kind of conditioning stuff in the Toronto area. So he's going to come in good shape, and he's going to be ready to go come training camp. But a player that I really loved watching because he went up and down his wing and did all the little things that we talk about bloodlines. We talk about being the son of a pro. You've seen him. You've seen your dad. You've seen all the little things that need to happen. And Sam's going to follow right in his dad's footsteps, I'm sure.
And how key is it too when a player like that, not only obviously the bloodlines, but because of some of the things that his father's been involved in, he's seen so many of these other players come through, probably met a lot of the pros and got a chance to see how they carry themselves. And it's one thing to see the age gap, when your father, not knowing, obviously you weren't around when he played, but seeing a Stamkos come through the program and things like that, I'm sure that's a big factor as well. It's not the bloodlines, but it's similar idea.
Yeah, it's the knowledge of what it takes, right? So his dad would be able to pass that on. He had, all the conditioning skates, and his dad is big in the Toronto area with training. So like you say, I'm sure a lot of the top kids in Toronto over the last, I think he's been doing it probably 10 years, would have been through there. So Sam probably has seen and met a lot of these kids from the Toronto area that have been through the program.
I was going to say probably his whole life that program's been going on. When you go back to the Stamkoses and players like that, and seeing that. So it's very interesting to see, and just being around the game, being around so many people who have had success in the game, and of course many players that have come through the Ontario Hockey League, and now Sam Roberts out of the Junior Canadians will get a chance with the Oshawa Generals. He was the 16th choice overall in this 2025 OHL Priority Selection. Kingston Frontenacs with their second choice of the opening round. They are on the clock as we continue on. Want to make a quick note here, Daryl, before we get to Kingston. Of course, it's a bittersweet time for the Frontenacs with, of course, Dick Cherry, who traditionally always made the first round choice for the Kingston Frontenacs. We lost Dick Cherry a little while ago. You saw him around the rinks, I'm sure, over the years. Was a very familiar face.
Yeah, Dick had been around for a long time and been a face of that franchise and that scouting staff. It's as you know, the scouting community is a small community. Everyone knows everyone, and Dick was one that could always tell stories, and it doesn't matter where you were, he was one that could always make you laugh and make you smile. Talking to some of the scouts that worked with him, some of the stories that he had that I can't probably repeat on air. That some of the stuff that they went through. And some of the stories he used to tell were comical.
Yeah, certainly we pass along our thoughts to the Frontenacs organization, obviously losing Dick Cherry over the last couple months, and now, of course, the first OHL priority selection without him, as he does traditionally make the first round choice. So we send our thoughts out to the team there in Kingston, and the Frontenacs are all set to go with the 17th overall choice. Back to OHL Commissioner Brian Crawford.
With the 17th overall pick in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Kingston Frontenacs select defenseman Matthew Henderson from the Huron-Perth Lakers.
Once again, we hear from the Huron-Perth Lakers, Matthew Henderson, as they go to the blue line here, and the choice of the Kingston Frontenacs.
Yes, smooth. Smooth is kind of the best way I describe Matthew. He's a smooth skating defenseman back there. No panic in his game, and plays a simple game. Sometimes simple is better. And he would make the first outlet pass and follow it up. He wouldn't always try to rush end to end every time. He was a very smart and intelligent hockey player that understood the game and understood when to make those chances and when to jump up like he did here. And he was the anchor on that back end. They had a good back end. We're going to hear a couple names from that back end called this weekend, but he was definitely the leader and the anchor back there.
So exciting times for the Frontenacs to add a forward, Lex Kuhlman, earlier on in the opening round, and now Matthew Henderson, the choice here. So they've added a forward and a defenseman. Not a bad way to go through the opening round of this OHL priority selection. The Barrie Colts have the 18th overall choice there on the clock. We'll get to their choice in a moment here as we continue on. Terry Doyle, Darryl Woodley here in our Cogeco headquarters here, bringing you the OHL priority selection. A little bit of a change of venue, a little bit of a different look for us here this year, but we're glad to have you along with us here. The entire OHL brass is in the building as well, and we're here at Studio 23 at Cogeco headquarters to bring you the priority selection. And let's go to OHL Commissioner Brian Crawford.
With the 18th overall pick in the 2025 OHL priority selection, the Barrie Colts select forward Alexander Sementsov from the Halton Hurricanes.
So up the highway from Halton up to Barrie, it's a little up to 400, not a very long trip, depending on traffic, of course. Alexander Sementsov.
Yeah, arguably the best playmaker in the draft. This kid had the ability to dish and find players in spots and put it in areas that not a lot of other kids could. You know, watching him early in the year, you know, I watch a lot of NHL hockey as well, but you know, a guy like Kucherov, the way he passes the puck, this kid's got that ability as well, you know, and he made everyone around him better and very, very elusive with his speed as well, you know, as you can see there, beating the guy off the rush and sliding across for a tap-in. I would have loved to play on his line with him this year because a lot of the goals that his line mates scored were tap-ins. There's another beautiful pass from behind the net, just simple. Like he moves the puck at the right times, and you know, whether it was a saucer pass or a crisp pass when he had to do it, that was, you know, he had 59 assists I think this year. Could score as well, but definitely his strength and moving forward up in Barrie, fans are going to love to see the way he dishes the puck.
Yeah, huge numbers over the course of the year, 39 goals, 50-plus assists. We saw the numbers there coming on the screen just after he was chosen there, and I think it is a case when you can put up those numbers, unless you're playing like pickup hockey against you and I right now, if you're putting up those numbers in AAA hockey, there's something going on that's in the right way.
Yeah, I played some men's league when I was like 25, 26, so still in good shape. I couldn't put those numbers up those days with the best of them. So no, he's definitely a gifted player, you know, and he's got the vision and the IQ. He understands the game. He understands how to create space, how to make space for his teammates. Yeah, he was a fun player to watch, and those fans up in Barrie are going to really enjoy his creativity with the puck.
You mentioned the creativity, you mentioned dishing it, and sure, that's a case where making his teammates better, and then at some point probably knowing, hey, don't be afraid to shoot the puck yourself as well.
Yeah, because after a while, the opposition figures it out. You're going to pass, and you know I think he had 30-something goals as well. So he's obviously got that in his game as well. So he's like I say, he's a smart kid that understands when he needed to take it to the net, when he needed to shoot himself, and more importantly, when he needed to dish it off and make his teammates better.
We continue with the opening round of this OHL priority selection presented by Real Canadian Superstore. Across the network here on this Thursday evening, the Sioux Greyhounds have the 19th overall pick, and they're just getting set to submit that. And when they do, the OHL Commissioner Brian Crawford will officially make the announcement. Commissioner Crawford making the first round announcements over the course of the proceedings here, and then we'll change it up. We'll hear from the teams directly in rounds 2 and 3 in our proceedings here this evening. We have the Greyhounds at 19, the Brantford Bulldogs at 20, Windsor at 21, Kitchener at 22, and London at 23. We mentioned there are some league-issued compensatory picks. That's why, of course, 20 teams in the OHL, 23 picks in the opening round. So that's why the numbers, if you're wondering, a little different from that standpoint. Commissioner Brian Crawford has the Sioux Greyhounds choice.
With the 19th overall pick in the 2025 OHL priority selection, the Sioux Greyhounds select forward Ryan Kaczynski from the Mid-Fairfield Junior Rangers.
Darryl, the Mid-Fairfield Junior Rangers. I need the geography lesson, please.
I believe the team is based out of Connecticut, actually, but he was a New York kid that played in Connecticut, so with the residency rules, it's where you live, not where you play, so that's why he's eligible. They're a solid program year after year down in the States, and he was definitely the driving force of his team this year. You know, he's got good size, he's got good skill, but you know, it's not a shot that he didn't didn't have that he didn't like. He was shooting the puck from everywhere. He had real good numbers this year as well. So he's just one of those players that the Sioux obviously really saw something that they love in him, and not hard to understand why, because hey, he's got the size already. He's got the skating ability. He does a lot of really good things.
Listed at 6 foot and a half, 175-ish pounds coming into the OHL Priority Selection. And you mentioned just before we get to the next pick, just to clarify, of course, he lives in New York. Sayo set up New York, I believe, is what I saw. So New York is OHL versus, as you said, the team's based in Connecticut, which would be Q territory.
Q territory, yeah. So that's it's the thing with some of these American teams is that no different than Ontario, kids do travel to play now. You know, just because you're from Sault Ste. Marie doesn't mean you play in Sault Ste. Marie. So it's part of the things that we have to do is determine what league they should play in, and if they're our territory area, then we've really got to dig in and evaluate them.
No different than, if an Ontario kid decided to go play in Connecticut, for example, they're an Ontario kid. They're eligible, of course, for the Ontario Hockey League. Yep. The Brantford Bulldogs are going to check in here in a moment with the 20th overall choice in this opening round after Ryan Kaczynski was chosen by the Sioux Greyhounds at number 19. We've got the Brantford club coming up next. Of course, the Brantford Bulldogs among the teams remaining in the Ontario Hockey League playoffs, and certainly the barn's been rocking there in Brantford, expecting much more of that as the playoffs continue on. But now let's go to the commissioner.
With the 20th overall pick in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Brantford Bulldogs select defenseman David Buckman from the Ottawa Valley Titans.
Second time we've had the Ottawa Valley Titans checking in here, and this time David Buckman, the selection here.
38 assists in 31 games. Says a lot about David's game. He's a quarterback back there on the power play. Is smooth skating, sees the ice exceptionally well. You know, he made the game look easy. He saw seams going through the neutral zone, the offensive zone that a lot of guys aren't able to see. You know, he's a smooth skater. He does a lot of good things. You know, very, very good offensive instincts. That's one thing that you notice with him when he's got the puck on his stick. His head's up. He's looking to make, whether it's get the puck to the net, making a cross seam play, whatever it is. He's a smart, heady hockey player.
Perfect time. When we talk about Kaczynski and the residency thing, of course, for people probably jumped out, the board had an original hometown as Vancouver, BC, but now resides in the families in Stittsville, which is, of course, the Ottawa area as well. That original board had BC, so we wanted to clarify that the hometown is Stittsville, Ontario, looking at my notes that I have here. So indeed, for the factors, I'm sure somebody looking at the board that came on screen probably said, hold on a second, weren't you guys talking about residency a moment ago? But Stittsville, Ontario is his hometown or residency from that standpoint. So that's just to clarify that, because I'm thinking somebody at home probably heard us talking a moment ago.
Yeah.
And then, wanted the objection here. Hold on a second.
Was he born there, or was that?
I'm not sure. It did say,
okay.
They originally said Vancouver, but just to clarify, no matter what, it is Stittsville, is where he's living, where the family's based, everything like that. We may have to get our crack research team on this a little bit further, but that's where we're going through our most updated information. Stittsville, of course, Ottawa Valley, that whole region. So that's to clarify, just for people saw that board come up a moment ago and wanted to say, hold on a second, Daryl, please explain. Stittsville is the, and I've got some notes, of course, in front of me here, so that's why Daryl's checking out over here. So we've got that situation all straightened out. Now, Ottawa Valley Titans, of course, in that Ottawa region, I'm sure then come down for tournaments as well, and I'm sure it's interesting to see when some of the Ottawa teams move around.
Yeah, it's been real nice over the last 2 years. Ottawa went back to U16 hockey, so their draft eligible kids are now coming back down to the Marley tournament, the Silver Stick, Peterborough, London, all these tournaments that we get to see them in down here. Whereas in the past, probably the 8-9 years before that, they went back to U18. They didn't have a U16 program, so it's really nice now to be able to see them come down and compete against the best Toronto teams. And the Ottawa Valley team had a great year. They ended up winning their league, came down, lost in the quarterfinals, I think, of the OHL Cup to JRC. I can't remember if the quarterfinals or semifinals. It all blends together after a while.
You've seen a lot of games this season.
I know when they lost to JRC and Warren won the game in overtime, but that was one of the better games I've seen all year, was that JRC and Ottawa Valley game.
So certainly very exciting to see, and you're right. The Ottawa teams, they were an U18, 18U league before, and so you had players really not playing with their own age groups, and now playing at the U16 levels. Very important. Up next are the Windsor Spitfires with the 21st pick. They're on the clock. Commissioner Brian Crawford has the information.
With the 21st overall pick in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Windsor Spitfires select forward John McLaughlin from the Lambton Junior Sting.
So John McLaughlin out of the Lambton Junior Sting, and I'm sure we see a couple games, couple goals. Daryl, I'm sure there's a story here.
There's definitely a story here, yeah. John was a player that had a bad knee injury this year. Early in the year, had surgery, had it all fixed up, and hopefully is ready to go next year. But is also a player that played U16 last year and was arguably the best player on the U16 team last year. So I was really excited to watch this kid play and dominate against his own age group this year. And then he goes and has a real bad injury, and unfortunate for him that he wasn't able to play anymore this year. But obviously Windsor saw enough in him at the beginning of the year and saw enough of him last year to really like what they saw of him. And I'll echo Bill Boland and his staff. I think this kid's got potential to be a really good player, because I think if he played all year at the beginning of the year, I probably would have had him in the top 10 in my ratings at the beginning of the year when I saw him.
So Lambton Junior Sting is Sarnia and the surrounding area. Corunna is about 20 minutes south of Sarnia, so you get an idea. We always bring a geography lesson over the draft as well to bring people in. Of course, you're watching us maybe at one end of the province. You hear some communities, hear some minor hockey teams, and just wondering, okay, where is that? So we help you out with some hockey knowledge and a little bit of geography mixed in over the course of the OHL Priority Selection. So, of course, out of the Sarnia area, going down the road, of course, Jack Nesbitt of the Windsor Spitfires comes from that Sarnia area as well, so maybe a little familiarity from that standpoint as well. So Bill Bowler looking a little bit up the road to the Sarnia region for that pick.
Yeah, and I'm sure Bill's done his homework, and his staff always does their homework on stuff. So I'm sure they loved what they saw at the beginning of the year. And like I say, if we watch these kids over the course of a year, well, his evaluation probably would have been a lot over last year. And I'll echo what Bill and his staff are picking him in the first round. I really liked what I saw last year too. He's a player that drives the offense for his team. He's a good sized kid. He's a left shot centerman that does a lot of really good things. So I'm looking forward. I was looking forward to watching him this year, but I'm going to look forward to watching him play in Windsor next year.
You mentioned you have a 15 U scout. These players play U16, but you have a U15 scout, and I've got to think some notes there. And that's where sometimes seeing that age group, not for this reason normally, but those reports probably came in handy.
Yeah, but not in this case, because he played U16 last year.
True,
so
you're right. Yes.
I saw him play.
Yes.
I probably saw him play 10 times last year, and I'm sure Bill, being from down in that area, probably saw him at least the same amount as well. So yeah, but no, you're right. If it's a kid that's playing U15 and has an injury at the beginning of the year, and you've only seen him for a couple of games, then yeah. So I know a lot of teams now also do have U15 scouts, and it's so kind of the way we're leaning as a hockey world.
It worked out well, obviously with the U16 playing U16 last year. We saw the video of McLaughlin, and of course that would have come from last season with his limited time this year. Congratulations, and certainly pass along the fact that obviously the hard work and the rehab and the recuperation is hopefully going to pay off as now a member of the Windsor Spitfires, and showing that I'm sure in your draft year you get down, something like that happens, but here's a story where someone who, while you think, oh, my draft year shot, here's an opportunity still right there.
Yeah, it's got feel-good story written all over it, doesn't it? I'm sure the kid's has put in the work throughout the course of this year after the surgery, and is rehabbing and is doing all the things that it's going to take. Hopefully, again, I don't know how long the surgery, how long he's going to be out, but I'm sure he'll do everything in his power if he can to get back into fine shape for training camp in September.
We have 2 picks remaining in the opening round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, presented by Real Canadian Superstore. Thanks for joining us here. I'm Terry Doyle alongside Daryl Woodley. We've got our team working behind the scenes, both the OHL brass, the YourTV brass, bringing you the action here as we're across the Cogeco network. We're on Rogers TV, Eastlink, Cable 14 in Hamilton, CHL TV, social media throughout the OHL social channels, you name it. If you haven't been able to find us here on the OHL Priority Selection, we've given you lots of chances for people to join us here, whether you're joining us across Ontario, across the nation, into the United States, or anywhere else that you can pick us up pretty much everywhere. Now we've given you the platform to be able to show what's happening here in this 2025 OHL Priority Selection. The Kitchener Rangers are on the clock with the second last choice of this opening round of the OHL Priority Selection, and Commissioner Brian Crawford is at the podium.
With the 22nd overall pick in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Kitchener Rangers select forward Kane Barch from the Huron-Perth Lakers.
Huron-Perth, once again, Kane Barch, the selection here. Of course, spent some time in Texas. There's a family connection in the National Hockey League, and now, of course, Kane, this choice here.
Yeah, I believe his dad, Chris, did play in Dallas, I believe. So that's probably where the Texas hometown birthplace maybe comes from. But again, you know, if I'm drafting, when back in my days in Barrie, this is a kid that I'm definitely targeting. He plays the game the right way. He's got that little bit of, you know, I'm a Boston Bruin fan, so he's got that little bit of Brad Marchand in him that, you know, he'll do whatever it takes to win. He's a competitor. He's fierce. He'll finish on the forecheck. He'll, you know, do whatever it takes on the back check, whether it's blocking shots, doing everything like that. But he's also got, you know, the skill that help his team go, like I say, go back and win the silver stick and have a great run all year. He was just one of those players that, you know, he loved watching because he plays the game, plays an honest game, and plays the game the right way.
The bloodlines there, you mentioned Chris Barch, of course, longtime National Hockey Leaguer, multiple seasons, you know, playing in the NHL, so as well, but indeed played for the Dallas Stars and 2009 age group, the 09-10 season, and of course 08-09 he was playing for the Dallas Stars. So there's you know, connection from that standpoint, and has been coaching now with that Huron Perth team for the last couple of years. And you know, once again, we see those players, you know, someone 8 seasons in the National Hockey League can pass on some of that wisdom, and that's indeed. And of course, Chris Barch also came out of the Ontario Hockey League. He played for the London Knights.
Yeah.
Going back to 97 through the year 2000. So a player who had a chance to know the Ontario Hockey League as a member of the London Knights, and now the London Knights are on the clock with the final choice of the opening round of this OHL Priority Selection. So in a moment, we'll be able to hear from the London Knights, and of course Commissioner Brian Crawford standing by to make that choice in just a moment once the London Knights to go in there and wrap up the opening round. And of course, as we have this OHL Priority Selection going on, the Ontario Hockey League Playoffs Round 2 continuing on as well. The league goes quiet when it comes to on ice this evening with the draft going on, but right back at it with games tomorrow night. So you can certainly check them out at the rink, check them out on TV, check them out online. Certainly ways to check out the Ontario Hockey League playoffs as the race for the J. Ross Robertson Cup is well underway, and a chance to go to the Memorial Cup being hosted in Rimouski, Quebec this season. Who will come away as the Ontario Hockey League champions? We've got the final 8 in place right now in the Ontario Hockey League, and it's certainly going to be very interesting to see how it plays out over the next little while. The London Knights do have the 23rd overall choice. They will put a wrap on this first round. Been an interesting first round. We've seen a few defensemen. We've seen, of course, lots of forwards, lots of centers, which we normally see, especially through the opening round of the OHL Priority Selection. We see that most years, that it's dominated by players that are listed at center or can play center, it seems. And then as they get into training camp and get into the Ontario Hockey League, look to see, can they play center, can they play wing, and we'll see how that plays out. Commissioner Brian Crawford is standing by.
With the 23rd overall and final pick of the first round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the London Knights select forward Alex Campo from the Eastern Ontario Wild.
Alex Campo from the Eastern Ontario Wild, the choice here by the London Knights. The listings we have, there you see, 6'4", 171 pounds, player, a centerman. Looks like a guy who could play, you know, dominate at center potentially, but wouldn't be surprised, you know, he could probably play anywhere in the forward positions.
Yeah, you know, and he's all of 6'4". You know, and when you're 6'4" at 170, you still look like you've got a lot of room to growth, and he does. You know, once he fills out and gets 6'4", 210, 215 pounds, he's going to be a handful because he's got the skill. You know, he moves the puck extremely well. You know, he's one of his best qualities would be his hockey sense and the kind of the way he moves the puck and distributes the puck to his wingers and his teammates. He plays a very unselfish game. Yeah, and just a player that, you know, we talk about ceiling and potential and stuff like that. I think the ceiling is the limit for this kid.
So here we are. We've got one round in the books at this 2025 OHL Priority Selection presented by Real Canadian Superstore right across the network. We're going to step aside, take a break. When we come back, we'll get set for round number 2 in a few moments. As you're watching it right across the network, it's the 2025 OHL Priority Selection presented by Real Canadian Superstore.
For 50 years, we've been helping Canadians turn dreams into lasting legacies. Our equipment has been at the heart of Canadian communities, powering dreams and the hard work behind them. Kubota.
My OHL is a place to talk. So Talk Today has a number of elements. First and foremost, we support the players. We provide mental health and awareness training and suicide prevention training to them. And we have a coach that's in every one of our branches that supports an OHL team. And in years to come, these individuals that are playing in the OHL now will be great mental health champions.
Welcome to Oxio, the place where the internet truly gets you. Like how sometimes you just have to search down every rabbit hole. That you want to stream your shows, not pesky loading symbols. Or scroll to your heart's content, because culture now runs at the speed of your feed. Our internet was made to flex, to fit your online world. So if you're ready for an internet provider that finally feels like home, swing on by. We'll keep the door open. Oxio, born to be online.
It's the OHL Priority Selection presented by Real Canadian Superstore. There's the OHL Hockey Ops getting set to kick off round number 2 in a moment as we've got round 1 in the books. And let's send it over to Mark McKelvey.
Thank you very much, Terry. I'm pleased to be joined by Brock Chitteroni, selected 3rd overall by the Ottawa 67s. Brock, congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell me, how's this day gone for you so far?
It's absolutely unreal. It's the best experience I've had in my life so far. Growing up in a small town, never really thought it would come to being 3rd overall at the Ottawa 67s, but it's awesome.
Before we started this interview, you told me that after the interview, after a couple photos, it'll maybe hit you and start to feel real, but this is something you've been working towards for a long time. Tell us about the journey and specifically this season, how it went and how excited you were for the draft and everything that was leading up with it.
Yeah, the journey's been unreal. A lot of brothers I've made with along the way. I think just having fun and loving the game is the best part about it, and that's what I've been trying to do my whole life.
We always talk about family on a night like tonight, and your family, they know the OHL very well. Your brother Hudson currently plays for the Sudbury Wolves. You have another brother that has played some games with them, and your father, he spent 4 seasons there in Sudbury. That's not a Sudbury Wolves jersey. That's an Ottawa 67s jersey. What's that going to be like, kind of breaking the family tradition here?
Yeah, it's going to be nice. Going to be some nice games with Sudbury this year, playing against my brother, so it'll be fun.
What kind of advice have you got from your family along the way?
Just trying to have fun, keep the confidence high. It's a mental game, so just keep the mental game high. Make sure you're always focused and work hard.
You're going to a great spot, the nation's capital in Ottawa. They got a great fan base. What can fans expect from Brock Chitteroni?
I think fans can expect me to give 110% every day. Offensive zone, defensive zone, back check and forecheck. High skill game, high IQ with a really elite speed, and always there producing for the team.
Well, I'll get you out on this question here. I know that this has been a whirlwind of an experience and you're going to hear from a lot of people, but on a day like today, I'm sure you're reflecting on the minor hockey journey and playing with so many great teammates. How does that feel to see some of the players you've gone up against and your teammates? They're going to see their names called. What's that like?
It's awesome. Seeing guys I've played with in summer hockey, play with a long time ago. It's been great to see them, proud of them all. I'm hoping for my teammates to come up soon. Really rooting for them, so yeah.
All right, Brock, well, congratulations. You know all about the OHL, but now you're part of the OHL. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, Brock Chitteroni heading to the Ottawa 67s. Round number 2 coming up when we come back.
Parking your moving truck is hard. Moving your internet? That's easy. With Cogeco's super reliable, super fast, fiber-powered internet.
Lunch or dinner is served at Tim's. It's meaty, cheesy, and quenchy.
Now that's a meal.
Exactly. Make a meal of it. Order the new Hat Trick Flatbread Pizza and Garlic Bread on the Tim's app.
Time for Tim's. Across the nation, the Canadian Hockey League is known for investing in moments like this. But did you know we're also investing in this? Through the CHL Scholarship Program, clubs award nearly $10 million each year. The CHL, developing tomorrow's leaders.
Being a volunteer at YourTV is a really unique experience. In a way, it's a community serving the community. You have people from all different backgrounds coming together, create community programming, and I think that's really amazing.
My OHL is where people can speak up, because it's all about communication. And at the end of the day, it's just so important that lines of communication are open. An environment is fostered and one that players and staff feel as though, they're supported, and that should they have any concerns, there's a very clear process in terms of, how to bring them forward.
For 50 years, we've been helping Canadians turn dreams into lasting legacies. Our equipment has been at the heart of Canadian communities, powering dreams and the hard work behind them. Kubota.
The 2025 OHL Priority Selection continues here across the network. Presented by Real Canadian Superstore. I'm Terry Doyle. Daryl Woodley from OHL Central Scouting, Director of OHL Central Scouting, joining me here in studio. You and I have been doing this for a while, and it never gets old because we see these young faces and becoming part of the Ontario Hockey League family.
Oh, the excitement you see on the kids when they're getting interviewed, and the nervousness that probably being interviewed maybe for the first or second time in their life. But yeah, it's a fun day. It's a fun day. I remember back in the way back when I went through it, not to this magnitude, but it's a great day. And to move through this venue, and I've got a lot more room on the stage now, and I can extend my arms a little bit.
We got a bigger desk this year.
We do. I know, right? So it's a little more comfortable for us this year, and the temperature in here is beautiful.
Yeah, we set it up all right for you. It's a custom made for Daryl Woodley. Second round is now getting set to be underway. The Kitchener Rangers have the #1 choice in round number 2. Let's get the selection.
With the first selection in the second round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Kitchener Rangers.
The Kitchener Rangers select from the Oakville Rangers, Alexander Forrest.
Gives you a little idea what things are going to look like in round number 2 and round number 3. You heard the voice of Barclay Branch, VP of the OHL, and then there was Ray Hollowell from the Kitchener Rangers making the selection there. Alexander Forrest out of the Oakville Rangers, the choice here. Daryl, what can you tell us about him?
Just a complete defenseman. Can play the game any way you want. He's got the skill to play an elite skilled game, but don't let his size and stature fool you, because he's arguably one of the hardest hitting open ice defensemen that we saw this year. He loves the contact and the big hits, and the scary thing about him, as he fills out and gets bigger and stronger, he's going to be even more of a force, and you can see why the Kitchener Rangers selected him where they did.
Wasn't just because he plays for a Rangers team?
Well, it might be because now he's familiar with that asset. Maybe, I don't know, but
just from Rangers to Rangers. Come on,
Ranger to Ranger. Yeah, no, but this kid brings it. He brings it the right way, and one of those defensemen that, like I say, he's versatile. He can play the game any which way, and that's a big asset, because as you get into playoff hockey and when hockey gets a little heavier, he'll be able to step in and play the game that way as well.
Do you find that's something where seeing some of these players in October and November, the games may not be as heavy because it's early on in the season, and maybe late in a tournament, for example, but then you get playoffs, you get into an OHL Cup or whatever, the later type of events. Do you find the games get a little bit heavier, and therefore you want to see, can the players adapt to that style of game?
Oh, 100%. That's why, when with myself, I like to try and get out and see every playoff series, at least one of the games in each series if I can, because it tells a story of how these kids are going to try and win a championship for your OHL team, and what kind of character they have in the big games. And as I said earlier, we love to see kids step their games up in the big game.
Kitchener Rangers had the top choice in round number 2. The Guelph Storm are on the clock, getting set to make what will be the 25th overall choice, as we showed you changing the format up a little bit here, where Commissioner Brian Crawford made the announcements of the opening round players, and then you are going to hear from someone representing each of the teams, whether it's general manager, whether it's the head scout, you name it. So now let's go to the announcement of the Guelph Storm.
With the 25th overall selection in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Guelph Storm.
The Guelph Storm are proud to select Mark Pape from the Pittsburgh Pens Elite.
So we're going to Pittsburgh. A player who is well-traveled, Mark Pape, player coming out of the Pittsburgh Penguins program. And you see, Daryl, certainly some pretty impressive numbers when it comes to the offensive upside.
Yeah, arguably one of the best pure goal scorers, and coming out of the States anyway, for sure. This kid, he was entertaining to watch. Every time he was on the ice, you knew he was going to do something to wow you. You know, he was fearless with the puck. He would try things that a lot of kids wouldn't, but tell you, the skill and the shot this kid had were definitely something that separated him from the rest of his peers.
We're seeing some action there. This would be some tournament action, I would presume.
That looks like the silver stick there in a game against Don Mills, which was a really good game. As you can see, the arena was packed there, and he was one of the better players on the ice there and scored a big goal. But that's one thing he did. He scored every time I saw him play, and I was down in the States to watch him play a couple times, and he scored goal after goal after goal. It seems like every time I saw him play, he scored a goal. So I'm sure the Guelph Storm saw similar, or maybe they were watching the same games that I did, that they liked what they saw him in as well and made the selection.
Player who was born in the Chicago area, spent some time in Ohio as well. That's why I said well-traveled, but has played the last few seasons with the Pittsburgh Penguins program. And going over his last 3 seasons, going back 2 years, 53 points in 56 games at 13U, 81 points in 60 games at 14U, 94 points in 62 games at 15U. And according to the numbers I have here, not afraid to mix it up a little bit as well, around 80 penalty minutes.
Yeah, not he's one of those skilled guys that isn't afraid to get his nose dirty, and that's one of the things that you love to see, those skilled guys that will go to those dirty areas, because I can guarantee that's why he's got numbers like that, because you score goals in that slot area, and if you're not willing to go there like he is relentlessly, then you're not going to get those points and totals that he had.
And so, sticking up for yourself in those cases where you've got a defenseman trying to get you out of there and say, I'm not going to leave, and sometimes things get a little emotional, might say, in front of the net from that standpoint, but that's where that really helps moving on to the next level and willing to mix things up. The Sarnia Sting are on the clock and getting set to make the 26th overall choice.
With the 26th overall selection in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Sarnia Sting.
Making our selection will be Director of Scouting Operations, Kyle Craner.
With the 26th overall selection of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Sarnia Sting are proud to select Caden Aucoin from the Chicago Mission.
Nice job there as Kyle Craner making that selection there. Caden Aucoin, the choice coming out of the Chicago Mission program.
Yeah, a big right shot defenseman that is a smooth skater. Dad played in the NHL for years and years. He's I believe the third of his sons to play for the Mission and play at an elite level. So not surprising when Sarnia and Dylan Seek and his staff there saw what they liked, and he's a complete player. He's real good skater, moves the puck well, shoots the puck well, and thinks the game. Understands the game, and he's got a real good hockey sense.
Adrian Aucoin, of course, his father played a long time in the National Hockey League, 18 seasons, 1,100 games in the NHL. And you mentioned certainly the siblings certainly very involved in the program as well. Brother Kyle, Cameron, and sister Alicia, also strong hockey players. So certainly you talk about hockey in the bloodlines, and we talk about these players that have the experience, born in Scottsdale, Arizona. Of course, his father being well-traveled, and I'm sure it's very interesting to see as these players move around the country. And that's a life skill in itself. New teammates, getting a chance to learn new areas, new schools, new teammates, and being able to work in and be part of a team.
Well, any of these kids that are drafted today and going to play in our league next year are probably moving away from home. Moving away from their friends, moving away from their parents, moving into billet homes. So it's all part of the process. And, if you've been a kid that's moved around a little bit and, played for a couple teams, then you've maybe got to step up on some of your other teammates. But this is a kid that I'm excited to have in the league, and I'm excited for Sarnia to bring him on board, because he's a big right shot defenseman that does a lot of really good things.
The Sarnia certainly adding on the blue line, added a forward in the opening round, and now on the blue line, the choice there by the Sarnia Sting. Good to see the Sting making the choice there, as now the Peterborough Petes are set to make the 27th overall choice.
With the 27th overall selection in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Peterborough Petes.
Peterborough Petes are proud to select from the Niagara North Stars, Kieran Rayner.
General Manager Mike Oak making the choice. Kieran Rayner coming out of the Niagara North Stars around the horseshoe there down into the Niagara region, and now a player that Peterborough can add alongside Caden McGregor, the first overall pick.
I was just going to say Keaton and Kieran playing together, the KKs, I guess you could call them. But and again, another electric kid. You know, this kid, a goal a game for his team this year. He was definitely the driving force for his offense. You know, when he was on his game and creating and, you know, using his speed, probably one of the better skaters dynamically in the draft. You know, when I say that, I mean like quick starts, jumps in and out of holes real well. Just did everything for that team. You know, I don't usually throw comparisons out, but, you know, drafting Brian Little, you know, 2 decades ago and watching Kieran play, there are some similarities that that they both have. You know, Kieran's, you know, he's probably what, 5'9", 5'10", I believe, but does a lot of good things, and all he does is score goals. So that's you know, one thing I'm sure that the Pete's fans should be excited for, because this kid is going to score goals at the next level for sure.
I know sometimes you said it's not fair to make comparisons, but I guess when you just see so many players over the years, probably it's hard not to. There were just some player just reminds you of a player you've seen over the years, and then you're hopeful they of course take the same strides.
Yeah, especially comparing. You know, I don't want to put a lot of pressure on Kieran. Brian Little was a great junior hockey player and a great pro as well. But yeah, you see similarities that he's like, yeah, you know what, he was successful because he does this and you do the same thing. So, you know, you can't help but stop, you know, give those comparisons from time to time. I don't think it's, you know, I don't do it all the time, because there's a lot of really good hockey players out there that are their own players as well.
But I'm sure we also hear, when you get a chance to talk to the players, they model their game after someone. They see someone on TV, whether it was, you know, no matter who it is. Feels like a lot of players, the Kachucks now come up to them, for example, and they want to model themselves after that, and so many players like that. So it is natural sometimes, because the players are kind of seeing who their style sort of mixes in with as well. The Owen Sound Attack have the 28th overall choice. We'll get to them in a moment, as they are on the clock for the next choice here. But yeah, it is interesting when I talk to players, even when they're in the OHL, they'll always say, yeah, I kind of try to pattern my game after this person. And if they're a goalie, it's always somebody, you know, for a while it was Carey Price, for example, when you were a goaltender, and, you know, no matter what, there's always someone they have from that standpoint. Hey, when I was growing up, it was Ray Bourque. Didn't work out too well for me. Worked out all right for him. Didn't work out as well for me. A team that's worked out pretty well, growing a new group coming in. They made the playoffs. That's the Owen Sound Attack, and they have the 28th overall choice.
With the 28th overall selection in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Owen Sound Attack.
With the 28th selection of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Owen Sound Attack are proud to select Blake Munnings from the Quinte Red Devils.
Back to the blue line here, Blake Munnings out of Quinte. Of course, Quinte being Belleville and then the surrounding region, and a team that's had a lot of players come into the OHL and selected in the OHL Priority Selection. Now Blake on the blue line here.
And a lot, if you go back over the last 3-4 years, a lot of defensemen. I don't know what's in the water out there, but they produce a lot of really good defensemen out of the Quinte in that area. And here's a defenseman that plays a simple game. You know, moves the puck well, defends really well. You know, he's one of those guys that you're definitely going to want to have on your team, because he defends so well, and he does so many things well. He's a leader of that team. Played a ton of minutes for the Quinte Red Devils team, but you know, just simple sometimes is really good, and that's what he was. He plays a simple game, moved the puck, followed up the ice, and he defends so well. So a lot of real good things to like in Blake's game, and these are the kind of defensemen too that teams are always looking to add come trade deadline time, because they are guys that help you go over the top, and, you know, the guys that can shut down those top kind of lines, and that's one thing that Blake has in his game.
Attack General Manager Dale DeGray made the choice there of Blake Munnings, the defenseman coming out of the Quinte program, and you know, Quinte, a lot is that surrounding area, some rural area, you know, a lot of hard work, brought up a lot of hard work and effort, and it really shows, and it's a very strong defenseman have come out of that region, and we'll see more to come, and congratulations to Blake Munnings, chosen there. The North Bay Battalion are up next with the 29th overall choice.
With the 29th overall selection in the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the North Bay Battalion.
The North Bay Battalion is pleased to select from the Ottawa Valley Titans, defenseman Carter Kunopaski.
Italian Governor Scott Abbott making that choice. Carter Kunopaski out of the Ottawa Valley Titans. And once again, now we're seeing some defensemen being selected here.
Yeah, and Carter is an old school type defenseman. I don't think there's a defenseman that plays as hard physically. You know, in the corners, the way he plays the game is kind of the old school where you used to cross-check guys in front of the net and you used to whack and hack as much as you could. But Carter was so hard to play against. And guys knew when they were on the ice against him because they knew if you were going into the corner with him, they were going to pay the price. And, you know, he's one of the defensemen that I really liked watching this year because of how hard he played. And look at the hit he throws there. And I probably saw him throw 15 or 20 of those where the guy is like, ooh, what just hit me? And that's just the way he played. But he also, you know, outside of that, he's not just a defenseman that's going to throw his body around and do that kind of stuff. He's got the skill level too to move the puck and play the game as well. But at one point during the OHL Cup, I remember looking up the stats and Carter was leading the tournament in penalties. I wasn't surprised, but that's just the kind of player he is. He's going to take some of those penalties because he is so aggressive. And I've always been a fan of it's easier to pull a kid back a little bit rather than try to instill that competitive and that fierceness in him. And Carter's definitely got it.
Yeah, it's one thing to try to light a fire under a player. That can be a little bit more difficult. If they've got the fire and then you kind of say, all right, here's why I give you some leash and then here's, you know, reel you back in a little bit. But you'd rather have that than get a player going. I'm sure you've seen that over the years where you see that player and then they get to that opportunity where it's like, you know what, okay, great, but I need you just to dial it back a little bit versus you've probably seen players when you've been on the bench, even helping coach, where it's like, I wish I could get that guy going a little bit more.
Yeah, it's 100%. You see that no matter what level you play at it or coach at. It's you want those kids, and you can't make them do it. You can't make them compete harder. It's either in them or it's not. And with Carter, yeah, he was a fierce competitor, and you know, one of those kids that, you know, every time I watch Ottawa Valley, you want to make sure you watch when he's on the ice when that next big hit is coming.
So the Windsor Spitfires have the 30th overall choice. We'll get to them in a moment as they are on the clock here to continue the opening round of the OHL Priority Selection presented by Real Canadian Superstore. Pleased to have you with us here. Across the network, we have rounds 1 through 3 here on this Friday evening. We're back with you Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Time for rounds 4 through 15. The Windsor Spitfires getting set to make the 30th overall choice.
With the 7th selection in the second round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Windsor Spitfires.
The Windsor Spitfires are proud to select from the Mississauga Reps, Ian Inskip.
Another center on the board here, 6'1". He's 6 foot there. I think he's now even 6'1" and change out of the Mississauga Reps program. What can you tell us about Ian?
Yeah, Ian's game is complete. You know, he's an offensive threat. Plays for that Reps team, and he was the leader on that team for sure. He was one that drove the offense for him, and he would have been whatever the height you had at 6'1". That would have been what he had because he was at the OHL combines as well. And we updated all the heights and weights there. But a kid that excelled. You watch him skating through the cones here. He's a kid that's got real good size, real good skill, and I think we haven't seen the best of him yet because I think he's going to fill out, get stronger, get a little quicker off the mark too, and stuff like that. But he's definitely got a lot of upside, and you can see why Frank and the staff there in Windsor picked him here at 30th overall.
And that's the thing. And we talked about these are players. The one graphic has them at 6 foot. That's the growth. Some of these players where sometimes, some of the numbers were listed a little bit earlier on in the season and then updated, as you mentioned, at the OHL Combine, and there's a player right there, inch and 3/4 growth from 6 to 6'1" and 3/4, and they say, no, give me that 3/4. I want that for sure. And it just shows that at 15, 16, there's the growth, and you just never know, and players grow at different times.
Yeah, and that's it. I remember seeing there's some players that come into the minor midget or the U16 age group, and they're 5'7", and maybe they don't get drafted 2 years later. They're 6'1", and they're playing in our league. So it's everyone grows at a different time and a different speed during their course of being 15 and 16 years old.
The Peterborough Petes are on the clock, all set to make the next choice.
With the 8th selection in the second round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Peterborough Petes. Peterborough Petes are excited to select Matthew Perreault from the Toronto Titans.
So back to the Toronto Titans. We've had a couple players from that organization chosen, and here's Matthew Perreault, a defenseman, the selection here of the Peterborough Petes.
Yeah, smooth skating defenseman, plays a very smart, heady game, plays under control. Not overly, I don't want to say overly physical, but was always on the right side of the puck. Did a lot of real good things for his team. That Titans team was a real powerhouse team in that GTHL, and he was their top guy in the back end for sure. So there's been a number of forwards drafted already from that Titans team, but I believe he's the first defenseman from that Titans team, and he did it all for them. Whether it was played defense, kill penalties, defend in the last minute, or he's usually on the ice too when they were down a goal at the end of the game too. So he's a kid that was really relied on by the Titans coaching staff to play big minutes for them.
And a player who's originally from the Ottawa area and then playing in the Greater Toronto region as well. So players that the dedication, the families making the adjustments, and once again we talk about getting a chance to meet new teammates and getting into a new organization, and just shows he played out of that Ottawa Myers program and then goes to the Titans, and 42 points in 56 games over the season as well. And I think Peterborough fans are seeing already, with 3 players chosen here, the folks in the Liftlock City have a lot to be excited about.
They do. Three pretty entertaining kids that are going to be able to step in and make an impact with that team there. So yeah.
We're going to step aside, take a quick break. You are watching the 2025 OHL Priority Selection presented by Real Canadian Superstore.
Across the nation, the Canadian Hockey League is known for investing in moments like this. But did you know we're also investing in this? Through the CHL Scholarship Program, clubs award nearly $10 million each year. The CHL, developing tomorrow's leaders.
Hi, I'm Brian Crawford, Commissioner of the Ontario Hockey League. Thanks for enjoying the game today. If you've consumed alcohol while at the game, make sure to make the right choice. Get a ride with a sober driver, use a rideshare app, or take public transportation. Make the right choice, never drive impaired.
How big is a Fat Bastard Burrito? Let's start with the massive flavor you get with the huge selection of fresh toppings that keep you coming back. Don't forget the other things either, like big bowls, towering curated tacos, loaded waffle fries topped with piles of flavor, and tons of other stuff you won't want to miss. Go big or go home. And don't forget to download the app. Fat Bastard Burrito, the official burrito of the OHL.
The OHL Priority Selection continues, 2025 edition, presented by Real Canadian Superstore. I'm Terry Doyle alongside Daryl Woodley. We continue on with round number 2, and the Ottawa 67s are on the clock.
With the 9th selection in the second round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Ottawa 67s.
The Ottawa 67s are pleased to select Jack Johnson from the Toronto Marlboros.
The voice of James Boyd, the general manager of the 67s, making that choice. And Toronto Marlboros, I believe, our first pick out of the Marlies tonight.
Yeah, the first pick out of the Marlies for sure this year. And he was a big right shot defenseman, 6'2", 180 pounds. Had some offense to his game as well, but more known as probably a two-way versatile defenseman that will chip in with some offense here and there, but is really solid defensively. And a right shot kid, and at 6'2", he moves exceptionally well for his size. So they had a big decor there and for the Marlies, but he was definitely the anchor of that staff this year.
So, and you can see the video here from the OHL Combine, getting a chance to show off his skills, and obviously not in game action, but you can still just see from that video a big body, a big frame, and a guy that can certainly help out when it comes to the blue line of the Ottawa 67s over the next couple of years.
Yeah, it seems like these defensemen keep getting bigger and bigger, but they also their skating and their agility and their footwork and their edge control all keeps getting better as well. So that just shows these big kids. It takes a lot for them to get to that level. So they're putting in a lot of work, whether it's through power skating coaches or edge coaches or all these special coaches that they have nowadays to help them improve their skating, because skating is such a big part of the game. If you can't skate at an elite level now, it's hard to keep up.
It's not like your days where you could just have a big bruiser on the back end and, just a big guy that was tall and wide and, knock guys down in front of the net even if he couldn't keep up.
Yeah, I remember I played with Brad Brown. Brad Brown would have been one of the best ones back in the day that, he had a wingspan, I think, that went all the way across the rink, so it was hard to get around him, but he would clutch and grab and cross-check. But that's not the way the game is now. These kids are big and agile and skilled, and they can move the puck, and, it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch. It's got to be tough on these forwards, though, because there's less room now, and these defensemen close faster and faster on you. So, both sides of the puck, you got to be quicker and better.
So as you're watching the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, we heard from Caden McGregor, the first overall choice. We heard from Brock Chitteroni, the third. People are probably wondering, what about the second? Yako Wycisk, chosen by the Guelph Storm. He is playing tonight for Leamington in the OJHL playoffs against Milton, but we had a chance to have our cameras catch up with him just after he was chosen by the Guelph Storm. Just before the game started, we were able to catch up with him to get a few thoughts.
Thanks, Terry. I'm here with Yako Wycisk. Yako, how does it feel to be chosen by the Guelph Storm in the OHL draft?
Yeah, it's an honor. It's a super special moment. I'd like to thank the Guelph organization, Mr. George Burnett, for putting his trust in me. And I'm super excited to get started.
And what kind of player can Guelph Storm fans expect to see from you?
Yeah, I'm a super smart, skilled centerman. In the offensive zone, I like to create plays using my hockey sense. I'm also very reliable in the defensive end, and I focus strongly on the little details of the game, like winning those 50-50 battles.
Thank you so much, Yako. Congratulations again. And now we'll send it right back up to the studio.
Thank you very much. We want to thank the Leamington Flyers as they were helping us out there, as well as, of course, they were getting ready for a game. Their game started at 7:30. Yako was chosen at about 7:20-ish, I believe, 7:15. Yeah. So that was squeezed in very quickly before the game. But everyone, we thought that may have been a possibility. So Leamington, very cooperative, getting ready for their game. We thank head coach Dale Mitchell, an OHL alumnus himself, for helping us out to coordinate that. And congratulations to Yako. And you can see he's excited to be a member of the Guelph Storm, the second overall choice. The pick is in it is in for the Flint Firebirds here in the second round.
With the 10th selection in the second round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Flint Firebirds.
With the 33rd selection of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, Flint Firebirds are proud to select Lucas Nutting.
Lucas Nutting of the Elgin Middlesex Canucks program. You see a player that now looking to jump into the Flint Firebirds lineup.
Yeah, and you see those numbers. Not many defensemen at this age have 22 goals. He was an offensive threat back there for his team. Not afraid to jump into the rush, lead the rush, and he had the instincts and the skating ability to A, do it at the right time, but A or B, if he also gets caught in at a bad time, he's such a good skater that he recovered so well, and his play on the offensive blue line is one thing that really separated him from everyone else. But that being said, too, you can see he's not just a one-dimensional player. He can play defense. He can do basically everything that you want. He was definitely their catalyst on that hockey team.
30-goal season for him, and you may have caught it on the board. Just born in England. And now, of course, I'm not sure when he came over to Canada, but probably maybe at a very young age, as he's played for Elgin Middlesex over the last few years, and now a pick there by the Flint Firebirds. We continue on in round number 2. The Erie Otters are just about to make their selection. Once we know they're ready to go to officially announce it, they are. So let's go to the Otters.
With the 11th selection in the second round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Erie Otters.
With this selection, the Erie Otters would like to honor and pay tribute to our late owner, Jim Waters. The Erie Otters are proud to select with our second round selection, Tyler Cooper from the Chicago Reapers.
The choice there coming out of Illinois. The Illinois midget teams played for as well. And once again, you see, Daryl, some big numbers coming out of him.
Yeah, and I think Tyler really turned everyone's head this year when we saw him at the Silver Stick, because everyone gets see him at the Silver Stick. Some guys got to see him a little before that as well, but 49 goals in 63 games, 58 assists or whatever it was there. He's definitely he was the offensive driver for that team. There's a couple other good players on that team as well, but he was definitely the one night in, night out that made things happen for them.
We'll let people in. The way it works there, the teams submit their choice and is approved by the Ontario Hockey League, and then the team, like Dave Brown just did, the general manager of the Erie Otters, make the choice. So that's where it was a case there. You saw Cooper's name come up just a moment before Brown made the announcement. That's because they had made the submission already, and then Dave Brown just officially announcing it for everyone. So that's how it all plays out. Just lots of things going on behind the scenes, and of course the teams in their headquarters to submit the choices. But it's nice to see the general managers, and once again, of course, our thoughts. It's been a rough season for the Erie Otters. Obviously, success on the ice right now, but it's certainly been a lot of adversity for the Otters, and we credit them the way they've been able to battle through. Up next are the Barrie Colts as we continue round number 2.
With the 12th selection in the second round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Barrie Colts.
With the 35th selection of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Barrie Colts are proud to select Eamon Edgar, Sun County Panthers.
So the Sun County Panthers out of the Windsor region. Of course, we saw Yako Wycisk chosen out of Sun County, and now Eamon Edgar.
Yeah, Eamon it was an exciting 1-2 punch there, certainly this year in Sun County. The Barrie fans are going to be really excited about this player, as Dylan Smoskowicz making the announcement there, and Eamon might have a little bit more skill than Dylan did when he played. Dylan's a real good guy, but this kid has a dynamic one-on-one skill. He makes plays happen that you don't see coming, and then all of a sudden the defenseman's going one way and he's going the other. Had the ability to finish, scored a lot of big goals for them as well. They won the Alliance Championship this year, and he was a big part of that.
You see some of the skill on display, the hard work on display here as well. Just you saw, made a defenseman look a little silly as he made a move, and then willing to mix it up, not afraid to get it, whether it's through the middle or along the boards as well. And Eamon Edgar, the choice there of the Barrie Colts. As we continue on in round number 2, the Guelph Storm are on the clock to make the next choice. And Daryl, I'm sure it's an interesting time for all of the teams as they're going through. They have their list, just like you with your Central Scouting team have your list, and I'm sure you're just kind of waiting to see now. Round 1, it's one thing to see how things are going to play out. Now, we're further along. We're 35 choices in, and I'm sure teams are seeing how their lists are playing out, and just going right down the list and see who's the next player up.
Yeah, the draft's an exciting day because like you say, you have your lists, everything's set out, and most teams will always stay to their list. But you're also, if I'm picking here in 3 picks and I've got one kid that I really am excited about, and you're watching, one team doesn't take him, the next team doesn't take him. I know when we were in Barrie, we had times where we get to certain points in the draft where we all basically stood up and cheer because we get a player that we really wanted to get, probably didn't think was going to be there. But it's an exciting day. We talk about this day for all the players and their families and the coaches and everything, but this is a big day for scouts. We spent a lot of time, and scouts and GMs and all hockey operations side, we spent a lot of time on the road building these lists and putting in the long hard days at the arena. My wife always says I come home after watching a tournament for 10 hours and I say I'm tired, and she goes, I can be tired, you watch hockey all day. But it's mentally draining, and we put a lot of miles on our cars. So yeah, it's a big day for the players, and it's also a big day for these teams as well.
I know it happens, and I've seen this before, even going back many years. It's when a team thinks, as you said, okay, a couple picks down they think they're going to get, and then right before the team gets that player, and next thing you know, it's back in here and digging through, and who's the next one on our list? And you're just thinking that's going to play out. I'm sure that happened to you a time or 3.
Well, there's an embarrassing time with me, and it happened in Barrie. It was the 15th round. We're sitting there. We have our player that we're going to pick. We're 2 picks away, and we're figuring, we're going to get this kid for sure, no problem. So we all close our books, and we've got him in the computer ready to send him in, and he gets taken right before us. Now we got nothing to go on here, so we go back, and embarrassingly enough, we had to call a timeout in the 15th round. Needless to say, I heard it from my peers for years and years after that. But yeah, it happens.
This is your penance, having to tell this story over the years.
Right? Yeah, so it does. It happens, and it happens both ways. It happens when you don't expect a player to get to you, but it also happens when, oh shoot, I wanted that kid and he goes right before you.
How important is it as well to stick to your list? It's one thing that maybe, you know, you see something that, oh, there's a few players that have gone, we had in a different position, but the hard work went in. You don't want to take 5 months of work and try to blow it up in 15 minutes because maybe things went a little differently than you expected.
Yeah, especially early in the draft. So early in the draft, you're looking at your list and you're sticking by your list. But as you get later in the list, you know, you may look at your list and, you know, I got a centerman that's next on my list up, but we've already taken 3 of them. So now it's like, okay, well, now we start looking at our depth chart. Oh, we've got no right defenseman, you know, in 2 years when some of these kids will step in. Okay, well, who's the best right defenseman out there? Who's the best defenseman out there that we can take? So as you get later on, not today necessarily, but as teams get into tomorrow, they'll start to look at holes in their depth chart and say, okay, yeah, we've got no one in this area, so we've got to add someone. And that's where they go, okay, who's the best defenseman up? Let's go that way now.
And it's certainly very interesting to see, and I'm sure as they go through their list. We are continuing on with round number 2. The Guelph Storm are on the clock as they have the 36th overall choice. It'll be pick number 13 in the second round of this OHL Priority Selection. The Storm are standing by. I think they're just about ready to make the choice. We are seeing that I believe the pick has been submitted to the Ontario Hockey League, so once it has been approved, they will have the opportunity to officially announce the choice here, as we have Guelph, Sudbury, 2 from Sudbury, Brampton, Saginaw, Owen Sound, Sarnia, London to wrap up the round here in round number 2. And let's go to the Guelph Storm.
With the 13th selection in the second round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Guelph Storm.
The Guelph Storm are proud to select Carter Lewandowski from the Vaughan Kings.
Carter Lewandowski listed as a left winger. You see the numbers on the screen there, 18 goals in 33 games, 6'2", so I think it's one of those players, as an 18-year-old, don't be surprised to see that 166 become something in the 180s area, I would think.
Yeah, probably by the spring it'll be 180, and then, you know, as he moves on in his career, it'll be into 200s. And he's a kid that plays a heavy game. You know, goes to those dirty areas. Is an up and down winger that can shoot and score. You know, and just didn't take any shortcuts. He's a kid that'll forecheck hard, does a good job on the wall, getting pucks out. Just a complete defenseman. You know, a good skater. You know, probably will work on getting a little more explosive off the mark. You know, all these kids have something that they've got to work on over the course of the summer, but you can see the touch around the net that he had was really good. He was one of the forwards there that was contributed on or counted on heavily by his team.
Whether it's Carter or anyone else, I always like when I hear a player say, "I know I need to work on this." Now the next step is showing that you are working on it, and then achieving that you've made steps in it. But I always enjoy seeing that and hearing that when a player recognizes, you know, I need to shoot more. I know I need to work on my first step when I'm skating, or things like that. I think it's a form of maturity and maybe knowing, okay, I'm doing pretty well in my game, but I know I need to improve because I'm not plateauing at 15 and 16 years old. There's still a lot more growth, and I always appreciate being able to, you know, see players that recognize that and have that maturity factor and knowing that that's something they have to work on. The Sudbury Wolves are on the clock with the next choice, and they are all ready to make the announcement.
With the 14th selection in the second round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Sudbury Wolves.
Sudbury selects from the New Jersey Rockets, Vladimir Provorov.
Vladimir Provorov, the selection there for the Sudbury Wolves, coming out of the New Jersey area, and now the Sudbury Wolves making that choice.
Yeah, and the first 2008 that we've seen selected as well. This kid's got offensive abilities. I think he put up huge numbers. I don't have them in front of me right now, but I think he.
You do now.
Yeah, 122 points in 80 games. That's pretty impressive. So Sudbury obviously has seen something that they really love in this kid playing down in New Jersey. And, you know, we go back to, you know, talking about kids not getting drafted today. Well, there's a kid that didn't get drafted last year, and here he is, and getting selected in the second round. So keep chasing that dream no matter where you play or if you get taken or not today. You know, this is a kid that is a really good hockey player.
The last name sounds familiar. It should, because of course his father, Ivan Provorov, longtime National Hockey Leaguer, and a chance there. You know, he's played in the NHL for many years, and now an opportunity. I was looking at Provorov there. 692 NHL games coming into tonight, I think, because he's still active right now. So an opportunity to, once again, the bloodlines, you know, certainly playing off. And, you know, Vladimir's played in that New Jersey area for the last couple of years. So, you know, familiar to the North American game. You know, I said, talk about that New Jersey Rockets club, played last year with New Jersey as well. And we saw more than a point a game. We've got some numbers in front of us here. A point a game in that area. Came over from Russia, I believe, last season. Played some time in Russia the year before, late last season. So now a chance to get used to the North American game, get all established, and I'm sure it's a skilled guy the Sudbury Wolves are going to look forward to here. Yeah, and you know, as a 17-year-old, he's going to be able to step right in and hopefully help that Sudbury Wolves team next year, because they'll be losing some bodies like everyone does, but he'll be able to step in next year and contribute offensively. When you see a player like that, is it almost like you have that little bit more information, where as a 16-year-old, it's like, what's he going to be like as a 17? What's he going to be like as an 18? Well, this player, we know what he's like as a 17. Yeah, exactly. So that's the beauty of some of these kids coming into the draft, and they're in as a 16-year-old. So you know closer to what you're going to be getting as a product coming into your associate or into your team next year. And I've got to correct that. It's actually his younger brother. I said son, it's his younger brother. Oh, okay. And that's, you know, just double check my information there. So younger brother from that standpoint, which I think in the age gap, it's actually pretty, but yeah, it is his younger brother that is the choice there. Vladimir is the choice there. So we wanted to get that straight. We know the family connection there, but indeed it's his younger brother. So yes, now that I look at the age of Ivan, it makes sense from that standpoint. So, but congratulations, Vladimir, chosen there by the Sudbury Wolves, and now an opportunity to make the move into the Ontario Hockey League. Yes, exactly. And speaking of family connections, you know, we had the Guelph Storm just pick a couple picks ago, and Wade Branch making that selection. And it seems different today without having Big Dave here. You know, Dave's been a part of this league and been part of this draft for 45 years or whatever it was. As long as we've been alive. So yeah, it's been you know, you talk about family, and you know, Dave not being here, and I'm sure he's watching at home and critiquing us and as we're going. But yeah, I'm sure it's a tough day for him not being here, and yeah, just. Oh, it's obviously, it's been huge. You know, David Branch, huge for both of us, and you know, our involvement in the Ontario Hockey League over the years, and yeah, not afraid to critique us with a smile on his face, of course, or maybe start with that stern critique and then open up to the big smile on his face. Yeah, it was a nice pat on the back and kick in the butt sometimes, depending on which one you needed, right? That's exactly it. He was always, you know, commissioner of the Ontario Hockey League, coach, and broadcast critique. Yes. Broadcast criticizer. So we're, you know, of course, we're saying this all with a smile on our face, and we say hello to you know, longtime OHL Commissioner David Branch, and certainly, you know, our involvement in this league, you know, we could say would not be without for him. Yeah. And certainly a lot of people around this league. But you know, we're very excited to be in these new digs here at Cogeco headquarters. I'm calling it Studio 23 now officially, and you know, very excited. You saw, of course, hockey operations has been involved as well, and you know, bringing the OHL Priority Selection to Cogeco headquarters, and working together with our partnership with Cogeco and YourTV and the Ontario Hockey League, longtime partners, and just another example of our partnership, whether it's the games we bring you and playoff games, and you'll see more playoff games tomorrow, but of course with that and Hockey Day in the OHL that happens in February, and here it is producing the OHL Priority Selection, whether we did it at OHL headquarters and now moving it to Cogeco headquarters this season. As we continue on in round number 2, the Sudbury Wolves had just made a pick. They made another choice, or getting set to make another choice. They are all set to go, so let's go back to the Sudbury Wolves.
With the 15th selection in the second round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Sudbury Wolves.
Sudbury Wolves are proud to select from Waterloo Parker Smith.
So Parker Smith, the choice there for the Sudbury Wolves, a player out of the Waterloo Wolves organization. So, hey, why not Waterloo Wolves, Sudbury Wolves? Why not make that connection? And now there's the choice here, Parker Smith, the selection here by the Sudbury Wolves.
Yeah, from one wolf to another, I guess you could say, right? Yeah, Parker's a skilled kid. You know, he was a leader of that Waterloo team that had a real good year this year. You know, as an Alliance kid, I've always loved the kids from down the Alliance area because, you know, you get the hardworking kids, and that's what he is. That's what Parker is, and you know, he doesn't take any shortcuts in the game. He's gonna get his goals honestly. You know, he does a lot of good things. He's a complete player that was a big part of that team's success offensively. You know, over a point, I think almost 2 points a game, I think, if I'm correct. So he did a lot of real good things this year.
So the selection there by the Sudbury Wolves. Up next are the Brampton Steelheads, standing by to make the choice here in round number 2.
With the 16th selection in the second round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Brampton Steelheads.
The Brampton Steelheads are proud to select Lucas Johnson, Chicago Reapers 15s.
Second player we've had out of the Chicago Reapers program, and now the choice there by the Brampton Steelheads, Lucas Johnson.
And I believe first goalie taken today. If I'm, we
had not have a goalie.
It all blends together after a while.
We've not had a goalie yet.
Yeah, no. Lucas is a kid that played on that Reapers team. He had a forward drafted off that team as well earlier. But yeah, he's an athletic goalie. He's got a lot of upside. Obviously, the Steelheads saw something that they liked in him, whether it was a silver stick or state championships or somewhere along the way. But he's a kid that's got a lot of potential, and you know, with goaltenders. You know, they've done a good job there in Brampton with some of their goaltending picks that they've made in the past. So, you know, I expect Lucas to come in there and follow in some of those footsteps.
Yeah, it should be very interesting to see. And now, when it comes to Central Scouting, and obviously any team, but let's talk about Central Scouting. You know, scouting goaltenders. It's different than scouting forwards and defensemen. How do you approach it?
Can he stop the puck? At the end of the day, they have to stop the puck, but it's such a fine position. So years ago when I started back in Central Scouting, I've always had a guy that's just basically his job is he's a goalie scout. He's there to break down the technical side of the game because it's a different position if you haven't played it. You know, I can evaluate skating, whether it's a forward or defense and puck skills and that stuff, but goalie coaches and ex-goalies will be able to break down their game a little bit more, whether it's the footwork, whether it's the stance, whether it's the technique, all those little things that go into being a real good goalie. It's a fine skill that I myself, and I know a lot of OHL teams as well, whether it's their goalie coach or whether they have a guy that's specifically designed to watch goalies, all teams are in that same area.
So Lucas Johnson, 45 games played last year for the Chicago Reapers this past season, 1.87 goals against average, .913 save percentage, 10 shutouts, 34 wins, 10 losses, and what's listed as a tie in his numbers. So pretty impressive numbers and impressing the Brampton Steelheads to make that selection. Up next, the Saginaw Spirit are on the clock.
With the 17th selection in the second round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Saginaw Spirit.
The Saginaw Spirit are proud to select Drew Roscoe from Shattuck St. Mary's.
Shattuck St. Mary's, a program that has certainly put many players into the Ontario Hockey League, into the National Hockey League, and now we see this picture of Drew Roscoe.
And that's not a typo. He is 6'6", 177 pounds, and the mobility on this kid is exceptional for his size. You know, he moves as well a lot of guys do at you know, smaller guys, and he's got the reach and he's got the puck skills. I know in seeing him this year a couple times down in the States, there are a lot of NHL teams at those Shattuck games as well, and they're really excited about him as well because, you know, there's one thing that, you know, coaches can teach a lot of things things, but one thing you can't teach is size. You can't teach 6'6", and you can't teach how well he moves, and he's obviously put the work in. And this is a kid that I know Sagan, I was real excited to get into their system, because he's going to be a kid that's going to be able to step in and contribute right away, because he does have the size, he does have this, he has the skating ability and the smarts as well. He does a lot of real good things for them.
From St. Peters, Missouri, the St. Louis suburb, we've seen so many players come out of the St. Louis area over the years, because those players who played for the Blues and have stayed in St. Louis and really helped grow the minor hockey program, the hockey development program in St. Louis. And you talk to players now that have come into the Ontario Hockey League from the St. Louis area, and they just rave and they say yes. When I'm talking to so many players that, the resumes are huge, and some of these players maybe were very young when these people were playing in the National Hockey League, but they just have to look at the resume, look at the Stanley Cup rings in some cases too, whether it was in other organizations, and it certainly made things very exciting. Up next, the pick coming up here, and we're getting set to bring you that as the Owen Sound Attacker on the clock.
With the 18th selection in the second round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Owen Sound Attack.
With the 41st selection of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Owen Sound Attack are proud to select Landon Jackman from the Detroit Little Caesars.
Landon Jackman, the choice there, a player who is from Missouri, now playing in the Detroit area for Little Caesars, and Landon Jackman chosen there by the Owen Sound Attack.
Yeah, and I can tell you that the 5'10" is not right. He's about 6'2", 6'3" now. He's a kid that has a huge shot. He's got a pro release, a pro shot. He's one of those. He's a left shot that'll get on the top of the circle in the power play on the right side, and I've seen him score numerous goals there. He really played well at the OHL Cup. Leading his team to the semifinals at the OHL Cup this year, and he was a big part of that. And watching him play down in the States numerous times this year as well. They were the Michigan State champions, and he was definitely the driving force in their offense. A big boy that plays the heavy game, and is really hard for a lot of guys to contain just because of his size.
And certainly a guy putting up 2 points a game with a pretty strong Little Caesars program in a strong league, and being able to do that. And looking back when he played in the St. Louis area as well, looking at the one number here, it's high school hockey, but 21 points in 5 games. That's that's not easy to do no matter what level of hockey you're playing, unless you're playing against Daryl and his buddies.
Exactly. It doesn't matter what level you're playing. If you can put up 10 goals in 5 games, and I'm seeing there 21 points, and that's just what he is. He's got the knack for the net. He understands how to find those small pockets, those little quiet pockets in the offensive zone. Like I say, he shoots the puck. He shoots the puck almost probably as well, if not better than anyone else in this draft.
That's very interesting to see. And Detroit Little Caesars program, the selection there of Jackman. So we're waiting to see the Sarnia Stinger on the clock with the next pick. We're going to give you a little recap of what we've seen so far in this 2025 OHL Priority Selection presented by Real Canadian Superstore. We've got one round done. We're into round number 2. When we look back, there are the selections of round number 1. In case you joined us a little bit late, I don't know where you've been. We've been here since 7 o'clock Eastern time. But there you see, we'll just kind of leave that in. We're not going to run them down one by one. But if you joined us a little bit late, there are the players that were chosen in the opening round. Every team, of course, has a pick in the first round. And there were 3 extras for compensation picks. But, it's always great to see it. Every team has a pick in round number 1, no matter what's happened over the last couple of years. And so that fans throughout the Ontario Hockey League know they're going to have someone chosen in the opening round, and just gives you an idea. So a little recap there for you, as well as what happened in the opening round of this 2025 OHL Priority Selection. The Sarnia Sting are on the clock, getting set to make their choice here in the second round. So let's get set. I believe the Sarnia Sting are just about set to make that official announcement. They are on the clock. I think they have submitted it. Yes, they have. Let's go to Sarnia for the announcement.
With the 19th selection in the second round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Sarnia Sting.
Sarnia Sting are pleased to select Sarver Jaworski from the Detroit Little Caesars.
So right back to Little Caesars. One more time as Dylan Sika makes the announcement on behalf of the Sarnia Sting, and this time another player is a skilled forward.
Yeah, an elite skilled forward. This kid does some pretty special things with the puck. Coached by David Legwan of that Little Caesars team, so he would know him real well. But yeah, just a dynamic offensive force. They were a fun team to watch. They had depth, but between him and Jackman, they were two guys that really led the way for that Little Caesars team.
Player who's from Iowa, moved to play out of Michigan, so a case where moving up and getting a chance to make that adjustment, go play at a higher level of hockey, that dedication shown to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's a big dedication not only on the kid but the family as well. So whether the family moved with him there or whether he's billeted, but it's never easy to pick up and go play for a new team. So the dedication on Savar's team and family there is a big thing.
32 points in 21 games, 16 goals for him out of the Detroit Little Caesars. So 2 players back-to-back out of Little Caesars, and we're getting set to make the next announcement here, and it is the London Knights that are standing by with the final choice of round number 2 in this 2025 OHL Priority Selection, presented by Real Canadian Superstore. Let's go to the Knights.
With the 20th selection in the second round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the London Knights.
The London Knights are proud to select from the Ajax Pickering Raiders, Cooper McCaslin.
Rob Simpson making the choice on behalf of the London Knights, and what can we tell us about Cooper?
Cooper's a big right shot defenseman that moves real well. Had a little bit of a tough start to the year with some injuries and stuff like that. But when he came back, a lot of scouts and a lot of teams definitely took notice because he's a good sized kid. He's a right shot defenseman, moves well, does everything real well on that team. And when he got back into the lineup, he played in every situation for his team.
So there you see Cooper, the choice there of the London Knights, as we wrap up round number 2 of this 2025 OHL Priority Selections, presented by Real Canadian Superstore. We thank you for joining us here. I'm Terry Doyle alongside Daryl Woodley. We'll take a break. When we come back, more as you're watching right here across the network.
Parking your moving truck is hard. Moving your internet? That's easy. With Cogeco's super reliable, super fast, fiber-powered internet.
Across the nation, the Canadian Hockey League is known for investing in moments like this. But did you know we're also investing in this? Through the CHL Scholarship Program, clubs award nearly $10 million each year. The CHL, developing tomorrow's leaders.
Two rounds in the books at the OHL Priority Selection, presented by Real Canadian Superstore. I'm Terry Doyle. Thank you so much for joining us, making us part of your Friday evening here. 2 rounds are done, but now let's step aside and go over to Mark McKelvey.
Thanks so much, Terry. Pleased to be joined by another one of our top picks from tonight's first round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection. Brener Lammens, taken 4th overall by the Sarnia Sting. Brener, congratulations.
Thank you. It means a lot. I'm very excited to be with this organization. A great group of guys, and looking forward to it.
Well, we're going to talk about you as a player in a second, but I understand several years ago you made a trip to Sarnia for a tournament, and there just happens to be a picture of you in a Sarnia Sting jersey cutout. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's correct, and it's kind of fun. I actually had a 25 on the jersey too, so that's pretty special. My mom found that in her camera roll. this year, and yeah, we thought that was pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. It's pretty full circle to see that all those years ago, and now here tonight, selected by the Sarnia Sting. Talk about the journey. You've got your family with you tonight. I can just see how proud, the smile on your mom's face. It's going to take a long time for that to be wiped off. Talk about what this means to you.
Yeah, no, it means everything. They've sacrificed so much the last 2 years driving 2 hours each way to practice, and I'm grateful to have a sister like I do. Coming along the car rides, and my parents, yeah, I'm grateful for all the things they do for me, and yeah, it means a lot. I'm glad to be here.
Well, talk about the type of player that you are. The one word that came up a lot of the times when discussing some of these top players, specifically you, was physicality. I understand you like to be very physical out there. Yeah,
I love to be a 200-foot guy that can be relied on in the D zone, but compete is one of my big things, and I love to play on the edge. Just finding little things I can do in the game, helping my teammates be better. Yeah, just being a competitive guy out there.
As you start to look ahead, I know it's still a long ways away. You still got the summer coming up, but what do you want to work on over the course of the off season heading into training camp?
Yeah, no, I think I got to work on everything, just getting faster, being able to play with those guys, playing with men now, so not with kids your age or with the big guys, so just doing everything to be better. It's going to be a lot of work this summer, but I'm looking forward to it.
Final question for you. We've talked to plenty of forwards here tonight, and you were saying to me before we came on camera, this draft, a lot of offensive talent. What is it about this 09 age group?
I don't know, something about it. We just got a lot of offense, yeah. I don't know why, but we're just very offensive.
Well, what that tells me is we've got some exciting hockey coming up over the next several years here in the OHL. Brener, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right, round number 3 is coming up next as the first night of the OHL Priority Selection continues.
Lunch or dinner is served at Tim's. It's meaty, cheesy, and quench-y.
Now that's a meal.
Exactly. Make a meal of it. Order the new Hat Trick Flatbread Pizza and Garlic Bread on the Tim's app.
Time for Tim's. Welcome to Oxio, the place where the internet truly gets you. Like how sometimes you just have to search down every rabbit hole. That you want to stream your shows, not pesky loading symbols. Or scroll to your heart's content, because culture now runs at the speed of your feed. Our internet was made to flex, to fit your online world. So if you're ready for an internet provider that finally feels like home, swing on by. We'll keep the door open. Oxio, born to be online.
My OHL is a place to talk. So Talk Today has a number of elements. First and foremost, we support the players. We provide mental health and awareness training and suicide prevention training to them. And we have a coach that's in every one of our branches that supports an OHL team. And in years to come, these individuals that are playing in the OHL now will be great mental health champions.
For 50 years, we've been helping Canadians turn dreams into lasting legacies. Our equipment has been at the heart of Canadian communities, powering dreams and the hard work behind them. Kubota.
The 2025 OHL Priority Selection presented by Real Canadian Superstore continues. Terry Doyle, Daryl Woodley, Mark McKelvey slides onto the desk as well, and Mark getting a chance to chat with the players, and we'll talk about his experiences as the night has gone in a moment. But first, we're getting set to start round number 3, and the Kitchener Rangers have the choice.
With the first selection in the third round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Kitchener Rangers.
The Kitchener Rangers select from the Don Mills Flyers, Tommy Cutt.
Back to the blue line as Tommy Cutt, the choice here out of the Don Mills Flyers.
Big, tough to play against defenseman. You know, he's physical, plays the game the right way. He was one of the anchors on that blue line defensively. You know, they had Green taken in the first round for his offensive abilities, but I'll tell you, Tommy was one of those defensemen that was hard to play against. You know, he was out there all the time against the other team's top line. Penalty kills, all that kind of stuff. He's one of those kids too that At the beginning of the year, I watched, I'm like, yeah, okay, he's a good player. But as I watched him all year, his game took off, and he became more confident with the puck, which, you know, is a big part of the game. It's not really the biggest part of his game, but you definitely noticed he played with more confidence when he had the puck on his stick. But defensively and physically, there's not many in this age group that are better than him.
I immediately thought of Matthew Andonovski and the way his game grew with the Rangers over the course of his time. And, you know, I know we don't like making comparisons. I just did. Am I in the neighborhood potentially for Rangers fans?
Yeah, I think you're close. Yeah, I think you're close. You know, he's one of those guys that got better and better, and defensively, you know, I don't know if I watched him all year, if I don't know if I saw him get beat one-on-one, or have a guy, you know, every once in a while, even the best of the best will get beat, but very rarely did you see him get beat off the rush, or whether it was off the rush or out of the corner. Especially, he was tough to play down low.
Mark, when we see lots of games, it's one of those guys, doesn't always show up on the score sheet, but we notice them. That big force on the blue line just seems to get in the way and shut down things, and I'm sure Rangers fans are hoping Tommy's just like that.
I like that you said that because at the OHL Cup final, I had the pleasure to be on the call for that game, and at the end of the night, I think I said his name more than almost any player on that Don Mills Flyers team. And Peter Green was injured, and he logged a ton of minutes throughout the course of that tournament and in that championship game. And that's something that does stand out. We don't see it on the stat sheet, but those players that you noticed all night long contributing in many other areas.
Certainly very exciting. As we continue on, Mark wanted to bring you in here as well to talk about, you've had the chance, you talked to the guys on camera, but you also got a chance to talk to them off camera a little bit, leading into, coming out of the interviews, down the hall. There's lots of going on at the event here. What jumps out to you of what's gone on here this evening so far?
Well, it's exactly what you would imagine. Teenagers excited to see their dream come true, essentially, something they've been working towards, and you keep referencing it as that graduation from minor hockey, and they're just so pumped. And then every time we would hear another pick about to be selected, they would immediately go from talking about whatever to looking up to seeing if it was one of their teammates or someone they know. They might as well have sat in for us here and provide some of the analysis, because I was getting some pretty good information from each of the three players in attendance about the guys being selected. But they're so excited. Their family, they're getting a chance to pose now for some photos, wearing that jersey, wearing the gloves, holding a stick. And the funny thing about it was when we saw Caden McGregor getting his pictures done, his mom said, well, there's no way I could have got him to stand for this many pictures at home. So I don't think you can probably replicate that feeling of going #1 overall, but there's just a lot of great energy over there.
We joked with Caden McGregor off camera that he could just sit on the desk and talk about a lot of these guys, because they played against so many guys. He's got teammates, guys that played against these guys certainly follow their teammates and their opponents as well. We're up next with the Windsor Spitfires as we continue round number 3.
With the second selection in the third round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Windsor Spitfires.
They're proud to select from Detroit Honey Bake, Ty Bergeron.
Ty Bergeron, the choice, the second pick of round number 3. And Daryl, the Windsor Spitfires selecting here a skilled centerman.
Yeah, a big skilled centerman. He's 6'1", 100 and almost 180 pounds. You know, just that power forward type of centerman that it was hard to contain, hard to play against because of his size. And you know, you throw the size and everything else, and you throw the skill on top of it. You know, he was fun to watch this year. You know, that Honey Bake team was a good team. They had a lot of good players, but night in, night out, he was the one that led the way offensively for them.
And Mark, I know it's always exciting to see a player who, and Daryl and I talked about it earlier, not afraid to be a pass-first kind of guy. Sometimes in minor hockey, you're the one who wants to score the goals, but anytime you can find a pass-first guy, always find two, you can always teach them to shoot later.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some players, it might take a little longer, though, to keep prodding them to say, come on, pull the trigger. We want to see you shoot the puck. But what I found interesting in looking at his stats from Ty Bergeron is pass first, but he had 45 goals. So he knows how to do it, and I'm sure he'll get some encouragement along the way. But to have that in you, that unselfishness, I think is probably a pretty strong trait to have.
We've seen Little Caesars, we've seen Honey Baked. I'm sure those Detroit area teams, it's quite a competitive battle. Some of them, maybe one year they play for one, sometimes and then go to another. Some stay with the program, but I'm sure it's quite a competitive league they play against each other.
Oh yeah, it is. You go down there and they play the game a little differently down there too. They get away with a little more of the it's a little more physical, actually, believe it or not. So there's I've seen some pretty good games between them and the Caesars this year, and even you throw the Illinois teams, they all kind of play in that little loop together. And there are some really good hockey players down there and some really, really competitive games.
Mark, I wanted to ask you as well as we wait for the next choice. You were down in sort of the lounge area. Actually, you might have to hold this question for a second because I see the next pick. This is what happens when you're on the desk here. I start to lob a question up to somebody and then a team says, no, you're not allowed to ask that question. We're going to make a pick and we don't want to wait for you. So the Oshawa Generals are on the clock with the next choice and the Generals standing by to make that selection.
With the third selection in the third round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Oshawa Generals.
The Oshawa Generals are proud to select from the Toronto Red Wings, Tyler Hine.
Toronto Red Wings here. Tyler Hine, did you see a guy, a winger? Is this someone who, Daryl, you see projecting as a winger as his OHL career goes along?
Yeah, definitely going to be a winger. Real strong, up and down. When he's really on his game, he was in on the forecheck, causing havoc, throwing his big frame around. At 6'2", 150 pounds, he's got some growing to do still. But when he plays with energy and he gets in on the forecheck, he was pretty special. And he played with Lammens. He was his winger, so he would a lot of times get in on that forecheck and find his winger, find his other players, and make those plays.
Mark, let's get back to the question I was going to ask you. You were down in the lounge, we're calling it the lounge area kind of thing, where the players were, but I've got to think just the families. I'm sure you saw siblings, parents. It's one thing to post photos. I know a couple agents were around, some sponsors, things like that. I'm sure it was quite an event going on down in the lounge.
It was. They were signing some autographs, which I think.
Hold on, were you signing autographs?
No, I was not signing autographs. Nobody needs that one, I'll say that. But they're signing autographs, and I can hear kind of the joking going on of, hey, you need to work on that. You might need to work on that. Although I learned from Brener Lammens that he is a complete talk-to-text guy. Does not text at all with the fingers. It's just talk-to-text, which blew me away. It just shows maybe I'm getting older, Terry. That's what's happening. But
we all are.
We all are. You're right. But yeah, the stuff like that going on down there, the chance to, like you said, throw in the jersey. They got to put on their team gloves for the first time too, and take some photos. And I know there'll be an opportunity for the various players to go to their new cities and towns here soon and get introduced. So it's all just part of this process. But they're just so pumped up. They're kind of on cloud nine. They're all floating over there right now.
I had a chance. Brener Lammens, you talked to him about the cutout and the picture. I got a chance to see that. Unfortunately, we didn't get it on air, but I got a chance to see it, and Mom was so proud to show this. It's number 25. Obviously, it was probably modeled after Jordan Kyrou when it was made, but now wearing number 12, it was fate. His team's colors were black and gold. It was just like everything played out, and that's where getting a chance to see, certainly the proud parents, and they should be proud. And obviously, with its minor hockey coaches, you name it, should be very proud. The Guelph Storm are going to be proud to make this next selection here in round number 3.
With the fourth selection in the third round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Guelph Storm.
The Guelph Storm are proud to select Charlie Sullivan from the Don Mills Flyers.
Daryl, going back to the blue line here, the Don Mills Flyers, and we've got a case where Charlie Sullivan now with the Guelph Storm.
Yeah, third defenseman from Don Mills drafted. They were tough to play against. They were well structured, played a good defensive game, and Charlie was one that was one of the guys that ate up a lot of minutes for them. He's a kid that from the beginning of the year was one of their go-to guys. And he kept getting better and better to the point where when Green went down in the OHL Cup and towards the end of the year, he was one that definitely stepped up his game, and he was relied on a little more offensively and to move the puck a little bit more, and he did that. But there's the best part of his game. He is going to be at our level, a defensive guy that isn't afraid to take the body.
Certainly willing to throw it around. Great shot there, great video. Obviously lined up perfectly as well. And Mark, there's an example, and you saw that Don Mills team at the OHL Cup, where sometimes we see teams like, hey, your top 2 defensemen. Maybe you got a third and a fourth that are all right. Don Mills just kept coming with blue liners and blue liners and blue liners.
Yeah, a plethora of talent, right? And they could throw a lot at you, and that's why they had a lot of success over the course of the season. For Sullivan, though, and I find it funny that you mentioned about him stepping up with offense later on in the season when it was needed, saw him uncork just a cannon of a slap shot. So he's got that tool as well. So talk about a well-rounded defenseman, but knows what he wants to accomplish at first, and that is to shut down the other team, take care of business at the other end, and that physicality, you love to see it.
Daryl, when you see a hit like that delivered in a game, I'm guessing you're going right to your notes.
I am, yeah, and I think that Don Mills team, they competed hard. I think part of the reason is too they play a lot of their home games at Vic Village, and Vic Village is a small little arena that there's nowhere to hide. So these defensemen, they know how to play the game the right way, and all the ones that we've talked about so far from Don Mills have that little bit of bite to their game. So no surprise that he went here.
The Ottawa 67s are up next and making the choice here in round number 3.
With the 5th selection in the 3rd round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Ottawa 67s.
The Ottawa 67s are proud to select Cade Campbell from the Toronto Red Wings.
James Boyd making the selection there, and Cade Campbell, the choice here. We're going back to the Red Wings.
Yeah, a smooth skating defenseman that throughout the course of the year, I keep saying that this is a kid that's going the right way, and obviously, Boyd in the Ottawa 67s here see the progression on this kid, and Cade's game took off. He's one of the better skating defensemen in the GTHL. He has the ability to join the rush and be the first one back to defend as well. So it's versatility in his game too. They were short up front. He played a little bit of forward as well. I still think he's a much better defenseman, but he showed that ability to play up front as well. But he's great with the puck and not afraid to take chances either.
And that's, I think, just as you said, that perfect timing. I think that video showed there, just jumping up on the rush, joining in, looking to go to the front of the net. And Mark, when we see these players and coming through the U16 program into the OHL, you want them to be able to, willing to be creative, because that comes to then going to the OHL at the next level.
Exactly that, right? And there will be those opportunities. Players though that you want to see them responsible all around, but you don't mind when they taking some chances. And now we're starting to see a lot of D come off the board as well. And I was talking with Brener there a few moments ago about the fact that there was so much offensive talent in this age group, but there still needs to be defensemen on each team. So teams are starting to identify that right now.
And Daryl, is it almost where, because there's so much offensive talent, sometimes a few of the defensemen may almost get, they were pressured. They had so much offensive firepower going at them that maybe it was hard for them to show when they're playing against, 9 strong forwards, for example.
Yeah, well, because you're focused on, as a scout, you're focused on these high-end forwards that are coming at you all the time and making these defensemen, backtrack and have to play defense so much. But it's if only 3 defensemen taken in the first round, we knew there was going to be a lot of high-end forwards taken. But I knew that come second and third round, that next level of defense and the next level of the draft was going to be pretty full with defense.
Up next are the Niagara Ice Dogs.
With the 6th selection in the 3rd round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Niagara Ice Dogs.
Niagara Ice Dogs are proud to select for the Don Mills Flyers GTHL, Caden Bell.
Right back to the blue line once again, and Caden Bell being chosen here. Don Mills, defenseman. I see a trend here.
Yes, this is the 4th one. And you know what, Caden was a solid defenseman all year. Played the game well, moved the puck well. But I'll tell you, you talk about kids stepping up their game come playoffs and OHL Cup. Caden ran with the ball, with them being short on the back end. I believe in the first 5 games, he had 4 goals and 4 assists in the OHL Cup. Ended up being on the All-Star team on the back for the defense. But, he's got the skill. And then as the year went on, he gained even more confidence to make plays because he's always had it in him. But for some reason, confidence in these kids is a huge thing, and he gained it in the OHL Cup.
Mark, I always appreciate the players too. Like we say, here's 4 defensemen from Don Mills. Somebody may have decided at some point, you know what, I'll go play for another team because I can get top 2 minutes. But you know what? You work together, you play the role, and you're rewarded.
Yeah, and it felt like with that Don Mills team, especially coming down the stretch, they were all coming together for that one goal, and it's all about a team game, and that's what's going to be identified on a night like tonight and over the course of tomorrow with rounds 4 through 15, is that you're trying to find those kind of players who will fit in with your group and understand that it's not always about me, it's about the entire group. And Cade Bell's probably a really good example of that. And it's funny, come on the desk here now, we're watching all these Don Mills defensemen go. Like I said, I had a good chance to watch them up close and personal, and seeing them get picked all in this same range, there isn't a whole lot separating them. That's just how deep that team was.
Yeah, certainly full marks to the organization there as they were able to put together such a strong season and develop so many good players into the OHL Priority Selection. We are at pick number 50, and the Barrie Colts are standing by.
With the 7th selection in the 3rd round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Barrie Colts.
In honor of Daryl Woodley, who scored a grand total of 0 goals in this league, with the 50th selection of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Barrie Colts are proud to select Joseph Salandra.
I don't think you liked my comment earlier.
No, they're watching. I guess they're watching in Barrie.
Right, yeah.
All right, Joseph gets his time here, and then we'll get back to that in a second.
Joseph is he's a skilled kid that I think he has 2 points a game playing down in a prep school. You know, he's a good skilled offensive player. You know, he's going to be one that's going to have a good chance to step in our league and put up points.
So we're talking, you know, when you're dealing with prep schools in the States, obviously it's a different model compared to the, the minor hockey programs and things like that. You know, when you see those players, what are you looking for?
Anything we're looking for up here, you know, can you play? And you know, it's a different style of game down there, but still, at the end of the day, you still got to be able to skate, compete, have skill, do all those little things that scouts and teams are looking for.
Dylan Smoskowitz taking the shot here at Daryl Woodley.
And I had more than 0 goals. I know I did. I had a couple of playoff goals. I know I had a couple exhibition goals. I know I had.
How many
0.
pucks are on the mantle?
Oh, geez, none. They're on the garage right now. My son used them all, so not a lot. But good job, Dilly. I like that. That was good at you. I'm sure Howie and Marty had nothing to do with that either.
No, not at all. You may have instigated it a little bit.
Well, when I played, I tended to do the same thing. So you know, I probably deserved that one. And as my wife always says, you know, I always make fun of people, but I don't like it when people make fun of me back.
You dish it out, you take it.
It's all in all good fun, yes.
It's all been fun in terms of you know, the Ontario Hockey League. It's a close-knit group around the OHL. The Sioux Greyhounds are on the clock, and we're waiting for them to be ready to make the announcement of the 51st selection. We picked number 8 in round number 3 of this OHL Priority Selection. You're watching it here across the network, presented by Real Canadian Superstore. We have the Greyhounds on the clock. Saginaw is standing by, and now let's go to the Sioux Greyhounds.
With the 8th selection in the 3rd round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Sioux Greyhounds.
The Sioux Greyhounds are proud to select Trevor Daly Jr.
An exciting moment for Sioux Greyhounds fans as Trevor Daly Jr., of course, father played in the Sioux, a great skater, and now Trevor Jr. selected here by the Greyhounds.
And what did you say about the dad? Great skater. Oh, this kid can skate like his dad. This kid's a forward though, just skilled. You know, he played on a Florida Lions team that was a good team, but he was definitely hands down the guy that drove the team. He made his wingers look really good. Put the puck in spots where they can be successful. But you know, I saw him play a couple of times down in the States, and man, he's exciting to watch. You know, so Sioux has got a player there that is electric. He's a great skater. He's got the skill. He's not afraid to challenge you one-on-one. He does a lot of real good things.
You know, playing in Florida, but you know, in case indeed sometimes that skating can be hereditary, and as you said, skates anything like his father. You know, Trevor Daly, watching him in the OHL, was a player that looked like he'd speed up as he was coasting.
Yeah, and the son's the same way. You know, you watch him there; he's walking by defensemen like they're standing still a lot of the time. He's got a great understanding of the game too. Like, he's smart. I know he had a lot of goals too, but if I'm going to categorize him as a type of player, I see him more as a playmaker because he was so good at making his wingers better and giving them pucks in the right spot.
Mark, I always think sometimes you can't teach great skating. If you're a great skater, you can improve your skating, but you bring that skill, you're always going to have that skill.
And I'm sure when you're going off of bloodlines, like you said, father was a great skater, so a good chance he will be, and the fact that now you see it and now that he is progressing in his hockey career. Big shoes to fill, though. His dad played over 1,000 games, won multiple Stanley Cups, but you also get to learn from somebody like that. So pretty exciting, and selected where his dad played from 99 to 2003, and we'll see what the future has in store for Trevor Daly Jr.
You know, certainly a very popular player in his time in the Sioux, and now a chance for Daly Jr. to be chosen there by the Sioux Greyhounds. The Saginaw Spirit standing by for the next choice.
With the 9th selection in the 3rd round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Saginaw Spirit.
The Saginaw Spirit are proud to select Levi Harper from Shattuck St. Mary's.
So the choice here by the Saginaw Spirit, Levi Harper coming out of Shattuck St. Mary's, second player we've had out of that program.
Yeah, second player out of that program. This is a kid that played on the U16 team. The Roscoe played on the U15 or the 15 onlys team. So this is the 2008. Yep. So he's a 2008 born player that wasn't drafted last year, and you know we talk about it all the time that just because you don't get drafted the one year doesn't mean you don't have it. You know the dream's done or you don't have a chance. So you know he had a great year in Shattuck. You know plays the game the Shattuck way, high speed, high skill, always moving, always putting pressure on. So. You know, I'm sure the Saginaw Spirit are very excited to get him where they did in the draft.
Mark, a player out of Florida, and that's one thing we've seen over the years, is just the growth of the game, where before everyone was from that, you know, Ontario and just the surrounding edges. Now we're seeing players who grew up in St. Louis, Texas, Florida, and here's another example here where Levi coming originally out of Florida.
The game's growing, and we know outside of Ontario here now, they're coming from all parts to this league, but it means a lot, I think, to the OHL, that it's not just becoming the Ontario Hockey League, but it's drawing from all over, and the game develops. There's players coming from everywhere, like you mentioned, and then a player like that, though, ends up at Shattuck, which I think if you're going to take a player from there, you talked about them doing it the Shattuck St. Mary's way. I mean, such a prestigious and elite program that here you get a player that you know, in a sense, what you're getting. You know at least what level they're going to be at as they come now over to Saginaw.
And Daryl, when you found over the years, as the game has grown, has it been a bit more of a challenge to get as many viewings when players are maybe spread out a little bit more?
Yeah, it's always a challenge, but that's why all teams have a staff. You know, they've got guys all over the place, and now with social media and video, there's lots of ways to see these kids. But yeah, definitely with the sprawl that's happened in hockey, it's definitely not easy, and you really got to plan your season out accordingly. But the Shattuck teams always come into these big events, so we definitely get a chance to see these players quite a bit.
5'10", 165 pounds on the latest listings there. But as we mentioned, he's a 2008 born. Most of the players chosen are 2009 born, so we've had, I think, our second 08 chosen here this evening. So going to be an interesting situation now, and an opportunity here for the club there to you know, get to know him a little bit more and look to see if they can get him in the program. Now we look to the Ottawa 67s are on the clock, ready to make the next choice.
With the 10th selection in the third round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Ottawa 67s.
The Ottawa 67s are proud to select Reed Hayes from Windsor.
The Windsor Junior Spitfires here checking in. Reed Hayes, the choice from the Windsor area, and you see a guy who scored basically 2 points a game, Daryl.
Yeah, and he played some junior B down in the area as well. So, and I saw the games on video, and he was just as impacting in those games as he was for his Spitfires team. But he was, you know, he's a dynamic player, a right shot winger / center that just has a knack for that net. Knows when to jump in, when not to jump in into the empty pockets, and he's got a great shot. Just you know, one of those kids that it's hard to teach goal scoring, and some guys just have a knack for it and knowing where to go, when to go, and he's one of those kids that's very smart. So I'm sure Ottawa is looking forward to bringing him on board.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be very interesting to see Mark as he comes along, growing through that Windsor program. And I think it's interesting when we see guys get a chance to play the Junior B or the Provincial Junior A level, just to see them, you know, kind of raise their own bar a little bit and challenge themselves in this draft season.
And I find that very interesting. A lot of the times when prepping going into the next season and looking at the various teams' rosters, you do find those new players who've had a little taste of junior hockey, whether that be at the Tier 2 Junior A level or Junior B. We talk about a top pick tonight who's playing in a game, and that's an important conference final playoff game where they're going to take something from that, whether they get 2, 3, 15 shifts in that game. I think being a part of that is pretty important and pretty eye-opening, and probably helps for these players when they do go into that first training camp where they go up against some older players. That's probably something that really you can't replicate until you're out there in that physical environment going up against players who've got a little more maturity on you.
So up next are the Sarnia Sting to make the selection.
With the 11th selection in the third round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Sarnia Sting.
Sarnia Sting are pleased to select from the Elgin Middlesex Canucks, Chase Sewell.
Jay Sewell, the choice here, originally from Elmer, Ontario, and playing for Elgin Middlesex. Spent some time previously in Chatham at the Chatham organization around as well, but a player now going to the Sarnia Sting.
Yeah, kid with all kinds of potential. 6'5", 6'6". I'm not exactly sure. He's a tall, lengthy defenseman. 6'5". Yeah, see, I'm pretty good. I just off the top of my head, I know that stuff, right? But this kid's got a huge ceiling. And his game kept getting better and better all year round. You see the beginning of the year, and you see this big defenseman back there that, a little clumsy, a little awkward. But I'll tell you, as the year progressed, his game came along. He grew into his body, his coordination all came along, and I'll tell you, by the end of the year, he was one of the top defensemen on that team. Him and Nutting were the two guys that really carried the load back there for that Elgin team.
And how important is to see that idea where they were able to grow their game over the season?
Yeah, exactly. Because we look at that, because now where is he going to take his game next year? As he gets a little stronger this summer and he's gained the confidence and he's done all that stuff through the course of the year. How good can this kid be? I'm sure that's the excitement for Sarnia when they drafted him where they did, and I'm sure they're looking forward to watching him progress over the summer and into next year.
We've got the next pick coming in on the clock are the Flint Firebirds.
With the 12th pick in the third round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Flint Firebirds.
With the selection of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Flint Firebirds are proud to select Mason Corville.
Daryl, Mason Corville, the most recent selection.
Yeah, Mason had a real good year, but really had a coming out at the OHL Cup. Played for TPH at the OHL Cup this year, and his 2 games that he played, I don't exactly know the stats on it, but he was lights out. Stood on his head, gave his team a chance to win both the games that he played in. His dad played in the league years ago. Back when I played, Larry Corville played in Oshawa with me actually for half a year. This is a kid that played 3 games and had 940 save percentage, and that's pretty good at this level. He's a kid that definitely at the end of the year really peaked, and teams noticed him. I'm sure that's what Flint saw in him, and are probably excited to have him join their roster.
A 6'2" goaltender, and Mark, that's where we're seeing. Sometimes it's unfair to the 5'11" goalies, but a lot of times looking for that 6'2" and up frame, and a goaltender that's going to be able to develop and probably have a little bit of time to develop into a Flint organization that's been able to put some goaltenders through the OHL in the last few years.
That's for sure. I mean, Nathan Day just signed his entry-level contract with the Edmonton Oilers, and some good goaltenders that have been there in Michigan. But you talk about the size, you'll probably wait on that and give him every opportunity to develop when they have that size. That TPH team that came into the OHL Cup put together, they come in and came up very close to getting to the semifinal. A tough loss in the quarterfinal, and I thought there was a lot of standouts on that team that probably really put themselves on the radar for this OHL draft. They were on the radar, but if anything, they really just helped their stock rise.
Mason Corville out of the Wilkes-Barre Scranton program, and looking at some of his numbers, 920, 926 save percentages over the course of the last couple of seasons. One stretch last year, he had a 953 save percentage. Once again, doesn't matter if you're playing elite level hockey and putting up those numbers as a goaltender, there's certainly something to look at there. And as Daryl said earlier, can he stop pucks? Check.
He does, yes, and that's one thing that he did. And he played with confidence. He was a goalie that challenged at the OHL Cup, and he was fun to watch. He was a fun goalie to watch at the OHL Cup.
I always look at, and we've all seen the goaltenders over the years. I even go back to like a Patrick Waugh. I want to see a goalie with that little swagger, that little confidence that just says, "You're not getting one by me tonight." And I think, Mark, we've seen that over the years in this league, in the NHL. When that goalie just has that little swagger, that it factor, it's like, okay, this is gonna be a long night for the shooters.
Yeah, how many times have you been watching a game and thought, they're not getting anything by this guy at this point, right? There's a few saves, and then it turns into several saves, and then it turns into a dozen saves that all of a sudden this guy is locked in, he's dialed in, and when those goaltenders get hot, there's probably just like a shooter who feels like everything is going into the back of the net, but for the netminder, you get to frustrate so many more people by making those saves, and we've seen goaltenders get hot and just ride that confidence, but I think that swagger you talk about too is just something that you have to have in you when you get out there on the ice. Not every goaltender maybe has that same sort of confidence, and you try to build them up, but some netminders, they let one in, it's just in one ear, out the other, they move on, and you love to see that in them.
And Daryl, that's what Mark kind of went where I was going next, is how important when you see maybe a goal goes in early and you want to see, how is he going to react? Is he going to, is that going to be in his head the rest of the night? We're not talking about Mason, we're talking in general with goaltenders versus that goalie that battles right back and, they got one by him and not a second one.
Well, it's all part of the evaluation. It's no different, with goalies, you're watching how they bounce back, but, we're talking about defensemen and forwards. If a defenseman gets beat for a goal, how does he react? How does he go to the bench? Is his head down on the bench? As scouts, we're watching all these little things. We're not just watching the puck and the play. We're watching away from the play sometimes. That's why watching a game live beats watching a game on TV anytime, because you get the whole aspect of the game. You can see the bench when the player goes off. You can see the goalie. How does he react after the goal? It's not just, watching the kids celebrate. Well, how does he react? There's all kinds of different aspects that a lot of people don't realize that we're watching. We're watching all the time.
But if you see a game on TV, you get to hear and see Mark or myself or someone like that. So hold on, don't knock watching hockey on TV too much.
Can I take the fifth on that one?
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Hold on, let me talk to Dylan Smoskowitz, see what he thinks of your opinion. You are watching the 2025 OHL Priority Selection presented by Real Canadian Superstore. Thanks for joining us across the network. I'm Terry Doyle, Daryl Woodley, and Mark McKelvey with us here in studio. Thanks for joining us, whether you're watching us on YourTV, Rogers TV, Cable 14 in Hamilton, Eastlink, CHL TV, the OHL social media channels. It's great to have you on board for this OHL Priority Selection as we're getting close to the 10 o'clock hour Eastern time. We've got a handful of picks to go, 8 more picks to go here in round number 3. Then we will pause for the evening and we'll be back with you tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern time for rounds 4 through 15. Mark and I will be on the desk taking you through that. Plenty of conversations that we will have, various guests joining us throughout the day on Saturday. And it's going to be always a lot of fun to catch up with a lot of people around the Ontario Hockey League. We might even let Daryl come back on the desk at some point on Saturday as well. We're getting set for the next choice, and the Guelph Storm are on the clock.
With the 13th selection in the third round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Guelph Storm.
The Guelph Storm are proud to select Cruz Resnick from the Toronto Red Wings.
Another goaltender chosen here, Cruz Resnick, and this was a name I remember, even in January, I had someone whisper in my ear and say, keep an eye on this name.
Yeah, this is definitely a name that's been on the radar. Another kid that played up last year, and I think even at the beginning of last year, I had identified him as a kid to watch, not realizing that he was an underage. And I'm like, oh no, can't watch him. But he's a kid that's got size, athleticism. He's got the mental makeup of a goalie that is very hard to beat. He was a big part of that team's success this year. In the playoffs, they shut down that high-powered junior Canadians team, and he was one of the big reasons. He played 4 to 5 games in that series, lost in the Silver Stick final to Huron Perth, and he was a big reason for that. This is a goalie that they really counted on a lot, and he made a lot of big saves at the right time for his team.
Mark, we're getting a chance to see Cruz in action here, and I think it's a case where, when a goalie steps up in some of those big games, Silver Stick, deep in Silver Stick, playoff games, things like that, it's certainly going to go a long way in his development.
Absolutely. I mean, teammate of Brener Lammens, and we were standing out in the green room getting ready to come on in, and he mentioned to me, I'm surprised he hasn't gone yet. And this was a netminder that a lot of people had pegged to be one of the top goalies selected. What I find pretty interesting too is the Guelph Storm. They got a lot of talented young netminders already going there in Zach Jovanovski and Colin Ellsworth. Now you had a netminder that some could have argued could have been the top goalie selected in this draft. So clearly George Burnett's got a game plan, and that your success usually starts with the goaltender out, and that's what they're building with a netminder who has had a really good run and had a great season with the Red Wings.
And I think it's a case too for Guelph, because they have some good young defense or good young goaltenders already in the system. Someone like Cruz doesn't have to be rushed in either, because that's sometimes going to be the worst thing. Says a 16-year-old. I can think of a few goalies over the years where a goalie coach might even tell the OHL team, put him on another team in his 16-year-old year and leave him alone. Just leave him alone, let him develop, and then come into the OHL. Especially a team that maybe is going to be lower in the standings. Don't face 40 shots a night in the OHL. That can certainly make things a little bit of a challenge from that standpoint. The Owen Sound Attack are standing by with the next pick.
With the 14th selection in the third round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Owen Sound Attack.
With the 57th selection of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Owen Sound Attack are proud to select Nicholas Sikora of the Sioux City Musketeers.
Daryl, an interesting story here. This would be the oldest player that has been chosen tonight so far.
Yeah, 2007 birth, playing in the USHL. Dale DeGray and his staff obviously saw something that they really like in this player. He's a mature player and he's going to be able to step in right away and help that team next year. So that's the advantage of drafting a kid that, is in his 17th year. You'll be able to step in, whether it's a second, third role, wherever, they have him pegged in. He put up half-decent number, pretty good numbers in the USHL. I believe he had 40 points in 60 games or something like that. 32 and 42. Oh, that's close.
But they're not done, so
yeah,
from that
that's right. Yeah. So, no, he's a skilled player that, like I say, he's going to be able to step in and help Dale and his team next year.
You're right. Actually, your numbers were right. We were looking at a list here that over 2 teams. You played a little bit of time in Omaha, a little bit of time in Sioux City.
Okay.
So added up to 41. You were right. It was
close.
I should never question you. Absolutely not. And here's a player he's ranked 77th by among North American skaters by NHL Central Scouting. Yep. So he's on their radar as well. So a good opportunity here. And certainly, Mark, when you get a player that you know even more about as a 17-year-old and pushing into their 18-year-old year, you know what you're getting here.
Yeah, and Dale had been on the record noting that a lot of teams were going to be looking to the U.S. and seeing what was still out there for those 08s, and instead here they go with an 07. And there's opportunity there with that young Owen Sound team as they continue to start to build something. Good young players, a good young core, and you've got maybe the best goaltender in junior hockey in Carter George, that some would argue coming back next year as well, who's going to be able to take a little pressure off those young guys if they do make some mistakes. So I think this is a pretty interesting pick, as I'm going to have a pretty good view, and hopefully Sikora's in the lineup to have a peek at that, to go with that young group. But you're right, you've got a lot more to go off of, and clearly a player, if he's on the Central Scouting watch list, then clearly there's something there.
Fans of the Bayshore would be excited to see him in the lineup. The Brantford Bulldogs have the next 2 choices here in round number 3. Let's go to Brantford right now to get the first of back-to-back choices.
With the 15th selection in the 3rd round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Brantford Bulldogs.
The Brantford Bulldogs are very proud to select Gavin Christie from the Niagara North Stars Hockey Club.
So Gavin Christie, the choice here, to the Niagara North Stars out of Beamsville in that Niagara region, and a player now that fans in Brantford can get a chance to check out.
Yeah, a defenseman that oozes hockey. Just a kid that you can see loves playing the game. Logged a ton of minutes for them. And to be honest with you, the kid that I didn't have at the beginning of the year, I wouldn't have thought that he would be a 3rd-round pick. But again, that's why we play all year, and that's why we watch all year. This kid's game kept getting better and better and better. And I still think he's got a lot more to go. He's got composure with the puck. He's got a little nasty streak to him. He does a lot of good things, and I think as he gets stronger, his skating is going to get a little better. He's going to get a little quicker off the mark, and he does a lot of good things. And his dad played, I believe, in Owen Sound. Ryan,
3 years there,
right? Yeah.
Ryan.
So he's got some OHL bloodlines as well. So, but just a player that really impressed me as the season went along.
Certainly excited in the bloodline. We see that. We said Brantford has back-to-back picks, so they have they had the choice a moment ago. They have the next choice as we continue on. They have pick 58. Now they have pick 59.
With the 16th selection in the 3rd round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Brantford Bulldogs.
We are standing by for...
Tell me when. Go ahead. With the 59th pick, the Brantford Bulldogs are extremely proud to select Jeremy Freeman from the Toronto Titans Hockey Club.
Back to the Toronto Titans. Stuart Hyman making the selection there, and there is the pick, Jeremy Freeman.
Goal scorer. goal scorer. 30 goals in 32 games in the GTHL is pretty impressive. You know, he played on a good team. Played with DeLille. He had some good teammates to play with as well. But at the end of the day, you still got to be able to put the biscuit in the basket, and that's definitely one thing that he could do. He's got a low center of gravity. He's got a little bit of I want to call it like a fire hydrant build or a bulldog type build, where he was hard to knock off the puck, and he could shoot the puck, and you know, everywhere in the offensive zone, he was always a threat.
Anytime you can score goals, it's the name of the game. Can you score goals? And sometimes, as long as you're doing that, you can work around some of the other stuff and teach the other things, because if you can score goals at any level, any elite level of hockey, it's certainly going to pay off. Brantford with back-to-back picks. The London Knights are standing by to make their next choice. We'll get to them when they are ready. And indeed, let's go now to the London Knights.
With the 17th selection in the third round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the London Knights.
The London Knights are proud to select Owen Midiotis from the Elgin Middlesex Canucks.
The Knights staying close to home, Daryl, with this with selection here with Owen, now a member of the London Knights organization.
Yeah, we've had a couple defensemen go there in Elgin Middlesex, and this is the first forward. And Owen is he's definitely a line driver for that team. You know, the old saying, he's definitely the straw that stirs the drink there in Elgin. Offensively, he scored a lot of goals, but he also made a lot of nice passes. He had the ability to beat you in a number of ways. So definitely looking, I'm sure London has seen them a lot there in their own backyard, and I'm sure Rob Simpson and Mark Hunter and his group are excited to add them to the roster.
And Mark, anytime you say Daryl, when Daryl says the guy stirs the drink, you know, it's like, I better keep an eye on this guy.
Absolutely. That's a guy that has stood out many times, make things happen, and kind of can really grab the bull by the horns. And I like that you mentioned as well that it's an Elgin Middlesex player taken by the London Knights. I think there's got to be something to that for some of these teams. When you have that familiarity, especially as we start to get a little bit deeper into the draft, that familiarity is probably something that's really important to know. We've seen this guy an awful lot. We know what he is. He could fit in here.
And I'm sure, Daryl, it's also knowing the intangibles, knowing that, you know, it's a family, it's a hardworking family, it's people they know, because obviously it's one thing to see the player on the ice, but knowing and finding out about their character and everything else off the ice is a big factor as well.
Yeah, that's a big part that a lot of people don't realize, the work that goes in behind the scenes with the draft and with doing the work. You know, teams do, whether it's phone interviews or in-person interviews, and you know, they want to interview the parent and they want to interview the player. But a lot of times when I was in Barrie, I wanted to see the parents too. I wanted to get to know the parents. I don't know what kind of player I'm getting, what kind of values has he been brought up with, and that's as big a part as any. And I'm sure, you know, Mark and them and their staff there probably know Owen, you know, in seeing him and seeing, you know, being around them a lot, would probably know them very well.
Up next are the Peterborough Petes to make their selection here in round number 3.
With the 18th selection in the third round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Peterborough Petes.
Peterborough Petes are proud to select from Shattuck St. Mary, Jerry DiConzolo.
Right back to Shattuck. We've seen a few players come out of this program, and now a player hails from the New York area playing for Shattuck, and some big numbers in terms of the offensive output.
Yeah, a kid out of Buffalo, and you look at those numbers, there's not many kids in this draft that have put up numbers like that. And he was a kid that, you know, not the biggest kid in stature by any means at 5'8", 150 pounds, but he would not afraid to give you a little jab here and there, so he could play the game anyway. If you want to open it up, play a freewheeling type of game, he has no problem with that, obviously, with those numbers. But man, he's tenacious, and I don't want to say dirty, but he's one of those players that, you know, doesn't mind giving the jab here and there. But yeah, real good hockey player.
And that's a guy, Mark, we see over the years that can turn into a fan favorite very quickly. Can chip in offensively, or certainly make an impact offensively, but not afraid. Those players that you love to have on your team, but you hate when they come to town.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking. You took the words right out of my mouth. How many times fans will say, can't stand that guy on the other team, and you say, but if he was wearing your team's jersey, you would love him, because that's what you want. You want those guys that can toe the line, that can get under the skin, but to have that kind of offensive ability as well, and you're saying isn't afraid to back down. Talk about a great combination, because sometimes you have those guys who are more depth players, so to speak, that, like you said, chip in a goal here or there. Here's a guy, though, who puts up points and can still rattle the other team and finds a good way to balance both of those things right in his game.
And that game too, where you go to the front of the net and annoy the goaltender, annoy the defenseman, get under the skin, not afraid to, as you said, that little jab, maybe after the whistle, you kind of make that one little poke kind of thing, just to maybe get a goalie off his game. And that's something we see as the game within the game type of situation, where as it plays out, next thing you know, goalie's off the game, or the team takes a retaliation penalty. And before you know it changes the course of the outcome of the game. And, once again, we talked earlier about lighting a fire under a guy. It's harder to have to try and light a fire than maybe trying to rein somebody in.
Yeah, exactly. Compete is such a big thing in our league. How hard you work and how hard you play the game. All teams value it a lot. So it's when you can get a kid that competes and what you're going to get out of them night in, night out, shift in, shift out. That's huge for all 20 OHL teams.
We're standing by. The London Knights are on the clock with the 62nd overall pick. We are in round number 3. We have 2 picks remaining here in the 3rd round, and we will pause for the evening shortly after that, and then we'll be back with you tomorrow, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, for rounds 4 through 15 of this 2025 OHL Priority Selection. You're watching it live here, presented by Real Canadian Superstore. We appreciate you joining us here. It's a great day and it's a great evening for the Ontario Hockey League. As we said, it's kind of like graduation from minor hockey into the Ontario Hockey League for so many players. But Daryl, the message we always say as well is, whether you pick the 1st round, the 15th round, or not chosen, there's still hard work to be done.
Oh, there is. Yeah, just because you were a 1st-round pick doesn't mean you've got the easy road. It doesn't mean you got the easy road. There's going to be kids that were drafted later than you that are going to be pushing because they want it as much as you do to play on the London Knights, the Peterborough Petes. They want to be on that roster. There's a reason why they've played the game at a high level for so long. That's their dream. Their dream is to make that next step, and the next step is playing for an OHL hockey team. So it doesn't matter. We've had, in my years in Barrie, we had numerous kids that were, 11th, 15th, 12th, these kind of rounds. Like Tanner Pearson was probably one of the later picks that we had. He ended up having a pretty good NHL career. He was a 14th round pick in the Ontario Hockey League. So there's stories that we could tell till we're blue in the face about these kids that were drafted late and made an impact, whether it's not just in our league, but went on and had great NHL careers as well.
That'll be for tomorrow as well.
Yes, right? Sorry, I didn't want to sorry, I shouldn't have brought it up. Okay.
No, we don't want to give away all those stories. We'll have some of those tomorrow as well. But it's always great to see, and then you can't help but cheer for just because of what we see on the page, they become a little bit of an underdog. Yep. Maybe they shouldn't be called that, but that's just what happens. And it's always great to sort of see those stories and see the perseverance, and it shows the hard work and the dedication. In some cases, too, we see players that, the OHL Priority Selection, they were, one size. And then maybe the growth spurt came in the summer or, in the next year, and before you know it, and then just they find their frame and the skating comes together, and maybe that one intangible that, Mark, we've seen it too, where, maybe it's they got their shot. It's a defenseman. Finally got that shot down pat, able to get it through, and next thing you know, their game really grows.
Exactly that. A lot of young players come into the league, and the shot's a great example from a defenseman that maybe they just don't have it from the blue line yet. But as they get stronger, they get a little bit older, they figure it out, they add that weapon to their game. So it's all about just improving day to day is probably the biggest message, right? And even for the players that are selected here in these first few rounds, nothing is just given to you. You've got to still go out and earn it. Everybody's got to find a little something to keep them motivated. For those players that are maybe picked a little later tomorrow, maybe that's their motivation. But for the guys selected tonight and some of those taken in the 1st round who know they're going to have big opportunities going into their various OHL teams, do you want to just be a part of that team, or do you want to be an impact player on that team? And like we said, it's all about what you can kind of bottle for that motivation to help you get to the next level.
London is still on the clock. We're waiting for their choice. But guys, that's the one thing we're also seeing out of the under 18 priority selection is so many players that have come through that have come into the OHL, played regular. I got a chance to see Nick Zerzicka a lot, a goalie coming out of that. We've seen various players, and I'm sure, that's another thing where that program has allowed players to develop at a different pace, but still contribute, go on to sign pro contracts, go on to, have success in the Ontario Hockey League.
Yeah, and I keep going back to the 15 and 16, 17-year-old years are so big for these kids because those are the biggest developmental years, both physically and with their game. So the big point is, if you don't get drafted, if you get drafted, where you play next year, make sure you play. Make sure you continue to develop your game, whether it's on the ice, in the weight room, getting stronger, whether it's playing for, a U18 program as well and being the guy on that team, getting some power play time. Really think about where your next steps are in your hockey career. career.
The London Knights have taken a timeout here in round number 3, so we're waiting for their choice. And let's take a quick recap of round number 2, if we can bring that up. As we looked at round 1, there's what happened in round number 2. So in case you joined us a little bit late, stepped away, there's certainly some very interesting names that you see the logos beside them, and fans throughout the Ontario Hockey League are going to be very excited to see these names. And for some fans, these are just names. But I know, Mark, we even see this as well, where we hear a name tonight or we hear a name tomorrow, and then all of a sudden 2 years from now, we're calling games and like, I remember that name.
Yeah, they'll come to you at some point. It's like that light bulb going off. And I mean, that second round, there's so much high-end talent right there, and just shows the plethora of talent that was in this 09 age group. Lucas Nutting, for example, I think was at 31 or 32 to Flint, was a player that, I just loved watching at Elgin Middlesex and watch what he could do, and ends up at number 30. Well, again, it's just a number going beside his name. He's going to get a lot of opportunities. So, and to see some of the players with so many bloodlines tonight, I know you guys were talking about all evening long in those first few rounds, the players who their brother or their father were in this league. It's pretty cool to see, because if you've covered this league for a long time and you get to watch that cycle, that's something I'm kind of waiting on, Terry. I know you've had the pleasure, though, father play, then son play. It's just really cool to see how this league continues just to go.
Get used to feeling old, though, when that happens. That's the only issue.
You said that now in the third round. We're getting old.
Yes, and you really start to feel old when that happens. London Knights have come out of the timeout. They've made their choice. They've submitted it, so they're going to make the official announcement now. Let's turn it back over to the Knights.
With the 19th selection in the third round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the London Knights.
London Knights are proud to select Elon Legalic from the Vaughan Kings.
Back to the Vaughan Kings here, Daryl, and the choice made by the London Knights.
Yeah, Elon is a skilled player that plays with a lot of speed. He played on that Vaughan team. It was a real good hockey team, but he was one that you loved watching, because he played with a lot of character, played with a lot of energy, and every time he was on the ice, he was a quick player that would put pressure on. And that Vaughan team was good. They ended up winning the first round of the playoffs against the Marlies. So it was a team that was real fun to watch, and he was definitely their go-to guy.
And certainly being that go-to guy at that level of hockey, Mark, it's so competitive, and when you're able to be relied upon to be such a contributor, it's got a big factor that scouts are going to keep a close eye on.
I would have to think so, right? I mean, you go into a game, and even if you're just a casual viewer of U16, for example, and you go in and someone says, who should you keep an eye on? Typically, there's 1 or 2 players on each team. If that's the player you're watching, you watch them closely, and if they can continue to perform the way that he did, you know that there's a reason why they're getting that kind of praise.
So the London Knights making that choice. We've got one more to go. The Flint Firebirds will wrap up round number 3 of this OHL Priority Selection, and the pick, they are just about ready. I think they're just getting their pick submitted to the Ontario Hockey League, and once they do that, they have to, we told you earlier, we have to submit the pick to the Ontario Hockey League. It has to be approved. Once that happens, the team makes the official announcement. Similar style to what the National Hockey League does as well with their draft. And now the Flint Firebirds, they've made the submission. They are going to announce it right now.
With the 20th selection in the third round of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Flint Firebirds.
With the 63rd selection of the 2025 OHL Priority Selection, the Flint Firebirds are proud to select Brener Lammens.
Brener Lammens, the choice here, listed as a winger out of the Sun County Panthers, another Sun County player chosen here. And Daryl, the Flint Firebirds and their fans looking to have Brener maybe in the lineup in the next couple of years.
They're going to have an exciting player. This kid has a nose for the net. Like I said earlier, that Sun County team had a handful of real talented forwards. They pushed the pace all game long, and Braden might have been the most pure goal scorer of them all. He didn't miss very often, and the OHL Cup in one of the last games of the round robin, or maybe the quarterfinal, he got an injury. I think he broke his collarbone, and he was really missed. I think if he's in that game in the quarterfinals where they lost, I think he's got a chance, or that team has a chance to win. So he was really missed come the last game in the OHL Cup.
A little bit of highlight action there. You see him certainly whether it's working out of the corners or going to the front of the net. Some great opportunities for for him. So 63 picks are in the books here at this 2025 OHL Priority Selection. Round 3 is done. We're going to step aside, take a quick break. When we come back, we will put a wrap on this evening's proceedings, as it's certainly been a busy one here at the OHL Priority Selection. We'll have more of that coming up next as you're watching here across the network, presented by Real Canadian Superstore.
OHL is a place where men respect women. We do training around healthy masculinity, consent, and how to be a leader in ending gender-based violence. Creating that awareness and that safe space for players is really important, and just being able to help foster growth in understanding their role in gender-based violence is huge.
The Ontario Hockey League, more than just a game.
Schaefer sprung loose and he scores!
On the ice, the OHL is the #1 provider of talent to the National Hockey League, developing the game's next stars. Off the ice, giving back matters. Since 2010, OHL teams have invested over $41 million in scholarships and raised nearly $8 million annually for charities in minor hockey, shaping futures beyond the rink. Excellence on the ice, opportunity beyond it. The Ontario Hockey League, where the journey begins.
Across the nation, the Canadian Hockey League is known for investing in moments like this. But did you know we're also investing in this? Through the CHL Scholarship Program, clubs award nearly $10 million each year. The CHL, developing tomorrow's leaders.
Parking your moving truck is hard. Moving your internet? That's easy. With Cogeco's super reliable, super fast, fiber-powered internet.
Welcome back to our YourTV studios here in Cogeco headquarters. Terry Doyle, along with Daryl Woodley and Mark McKelvey. It's the OHL Priority Selection presented by Real Canadian Superstore. 3 rounds in the books. We're back tomorrow for rounds 4 through 15 at 9 o'clock Eastern on the Saturday morning. Daryl, as we put a wrap on the first 3 rounds, what comes to mind?
Probably carry on, as my dad used to say. Just carry on. Let's go tomorrow and let's see what tomorrow brings. It was an exciting day today. A lot of high-end talent picked, but there's still a lot of real good players that haven't been selected. So if you weren't selected tonight, go home, have a good sleep. Tomorrow's another day, and yeah, come back and let's have some fun tomorrow.
Mark, you got a chance to be with us, but also talk to the guys behind the scenes and in front of the cameras. What do you reflect on here this evening so far?
Just a fun experience, right? I mean, even for these young men, it was a long day. Brener Lammens came in towards the end there of round 2, and he was yawning. This has been a lot, but he probably wouldn't trade this for anything, right? It's that kind of experience. And the one thing about this group of not just those 3 players that we had in studio here tonight, but that entire first round. I mean, I think there's a lot of home runs right there. That's just how good this group was. And a very competitive group, right, for those top picks as well. And that's what you love to see. You want to see that parity, you want to see that competitiveness. And as Daryl just said, let's get to tomorrow.
Absolutely. So we'll be back with you on Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, rounds 4 through 15 of the OHL Priority Selection. Right after that, congratulations to the 63 players who have been chosen, their families, siblings, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, you name it, all part of what has helped these players be chosen in the Ontario Hockey League, the coaches, everyone that's been involved with their development so far. But we say so far. There's still lots more to come. There's lots more to come in the OHL Priority Selection. We'll get things back underway at 9 o'clock Eastern Time right here across the network. For Daryl Woodley, Mark McKelvey, I'm Terry Doyle. Thanks for joining us here for the OHL Priority Selection presented by Real Canadian Superstore.
My time in the OHL allowed me to prepare for life as a professional hockey player at a young age. The development opportunity players are provided by playing in the OHL is unrivaled. Support systems teams have in place help players immensely once they get to the next level. With the coaching, skill development, facilities, and attention the OHL provides, I believe it is the best hockey development league in the world.
Welcome to Oxio, the place where the internet